The envelope was cream-colored. Expensive. The kind of wedding invitation that whispered money before you even opened it. I stood in my cramped studio apartment, still in my Walmart vest from my shift, staring at the embossed letters. Mr. and Mrs. Richard Castellano request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their son, Anthony James, to Miss Victoria Wellington. Below, in my mother's handwriting, Marina, so excited for you to be there. Your brother's big day. I almost laughed. My brother's big day, funded by my future. The phone rang before I could process the rage fully. Mom, did you get it? Isn't it gorgeous? Victoria's family insisted on the premium cardstock. It's beautiful, I said flatly. Must have been expensive. Oh, honey, don't worry about that. We've got it covered. We've got it covered. With my college fund. The $80,000 my grandmother had left specifically for my education, that my parents had safeguarded since I was 8. About that, Mom, when do I get access to my college fund? I need to pay for next semester. Oh, the pause told me everything. Marina, sweetheart, about that, you spent it, we borrowed from it, for the wedding. You know how important this is for Anthony. Victoria's family has connections. This could set him up for life. You spent my college fund on Anthony's wedding? Not all of it. As if that made it better. There's still about 3,000 left. 3,000, from 80,000. Marina, sweetheart, family helps family, you understand. I hung up. Family helps family, the motto that had defined my entire childhood. When Anthony needed someone to watch him after school, family helped family. When he needed help with homework, family helped family. When he needed his room cleaned, his laundry done, his meals cooked while mom worked double shifts and dad drove trucks, family helped family. Always me helping, always family taking. I sat on my bed, the same twin mattress I'd had since I was 12, and did something I'd never done before. I calculated every hour of babysitting from the time I was 10 until Anthony left for college at 18, every homework session, every meal cooked, every soccer practice I'd driven him to once I got my license, every night I'd stayed up with him when he was sick while our parents worked. I'd kept journals since I was young, a habit born of loneliness. Now those journals became evidence, dates, times, hours worked while my childhood disappeared into Anthony's needs. The numbers were staggering. Babysitting, 3 hours per day after school, 5 days a week, 36 weeks per year, for 8 years. Summer care, 8 hours per day, 5 days a week, 10 weeks per summer, for 8 years. Weekend sports, 6 hours per Saturday, 30 weeks per year, for 6 years. Homework help, 2 hours per day, 5 days a week, 36 weeks per year, for 8 years. Housework, 2 hours per day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks per year, for 8 years. The total came to 15,904 hours. At minimum wage, which had been $7.25 when I started and was now $15, the average came to $11.13 per hour. $176,961.52. I stared at the number, then I added interest, 3% annually, compounded, because that's what my college fund would have earned sitting in even a basic savings account. $197,347.88. But I was feeling generous. I'd only charge them for what they stole. $97,000, the amount they'd taken from my college fund, plus a modest fee for my services. I drafted the invoice on my laptop, professional and itemized, every category of labor, every hour accounted for, cross-referenced with my journal entries. At the bottom, in bold, amount due, $97,000. Payment due, within 30 days. Late fees will apply. I printed it at the library, put it in a manila envelope, and mailed it certified to my parents' house. Then I waited. The call came at 6 a.m. 3 days later. Marina Louise Castellano, what is the meaning of this? Good morning to you too, Dad. This invoice, for babysitting? Are you out of your mind? Family helps family, remember? I helped for 18 years. Now I need help paying for college since you gave my fund to Anthony. We didn't give it to him. We invested in his future. And what about my future? You're being ridiculous. Children don't invoice their parents. Parents don't steal their children's inheritance. We didn't steal. Grandma left that money for my education. You spent it on ice sculptures and a chocolate fountain. That's theft. You ungrateful. I hung up. The next call was from Anthony. Marina, what the hell? Mom's crying. Dad's threatening to disown you. What's this about an invoice? Ask them about my college fund. What college fund? Of course they hadn't told him. The $80,000 grandma left for my education. They spent it on your wedding. Silence. Then, they said Victoria's parents were paying. They lied. Marina, I didn't know. Would it have mattered? Would you have said no to the country club venue, the designer dress, the 7-course meal? His silence was answer enough. Congratulations on your wedding, Anthony. I won't be attending. The certified letter from their lawyer arrived 2 weeks later. Lots of legal words that boiled down to, "This is ridiculous. Stop it." I'd expected this. I'd prepared. My response went through my own lawyer, legal aid, but still a lawyer. We filed in small claims court. The maximum in our state was $10,000, but it would make my point. The invoice was evidence. My journals were evidence. The bank statements showing my college fund depleted were evidence. But the real evidence was the text message my mother had sent me after I'd invoiced them. You want to act like an employee instead of family? Fine, but employees can be fired. Don't come crying to us when you need help. My lawyer had smiled when she saw that. They just admitted to an employment relationship. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Judge Harrison looked tired, like she'd seen every family drama imaginable. My parents sat with their lawyer, an expensive-looking man in a shinier suit than anything I'd ever owned. Your Honor, their lawyer began. This is clearly a frivolous lawsuit. Children have obligations to help their families. My clients provided food, shelter, clothing, while requiring an unpaid minor to provide extensive childcare and household services. My lawyer interrupted. Services that directly prevented Ms. Castellano from pursuing after-school employment that could have funded her education. She was helping with her brother. That's what families do. Is it also what families do to take money specifically left for one child's education and spend it on another child's wedding? My lawyer asked. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is that true? My parents' lawyer shuffled papers. The funds were in my client's control. They had discretion. The will specifically designated those funds for Marina Castellano's education. My lawyer provided the document. The parents were trustees, not beneficiaries. Your Honor, I stood, ignoring my lawyer's hand on my arm. I'm not asking for every hour I spent helping raise my brother. I'm not asking for the childhood I lost. I'm asking for the money that was left to me, that was meant for my future, that they took without asking or telling me until it was gone. Ms. Castellano, please sit. They told me family helps family, but it was only ever me helping them. When I needed help, when I needed my college fund, they'd already given it away. I invoiced them because I wanted them to see, itemized, everything I'd done, everything they'd taken for granted, everything they felt entitled to. Judge Harrison looked at my parents. Do you deny taking the college fund? We used it for family expenses. Yes or no? Did you take money designated for your daughter's education and use it for your son's wedding? My mother started crying. My father's face went red. Yes, but, I've heard enough. Judge Harrison turned to me. Ms. Castellano, while I sympathize with your situation, I cannot award unpaid wages for family household duties performed as a minor. My heart sank. However, she continued, the misappropriation of educational funds is another matter. While this court's jurisdiction is limited to $10,000, I strongly suggest you pursue the full amount in civil court. For today, I'm awarding the maximum this court can provide, $10,000 to Ms. Castellano, plus court costs. Your Honor, their lawyer stood. This sets a dangerous precedent. The dangerous precedent was taking money meant for one child and giving it to another. The dangerous precedent was parentifying a 10-year-old and then acting shocked when she presents a bill. Pay your daughter, Mr. and Mrs. Castellano. Outside the courthouse, my parents caught up to me. Marina, please, let's talk about this. We can talk after you pay me. You're destroying this family. No, Mom, I'm just refusing to be the foundation you stand on anymore. What about Anthony's wedding? What about my education? They paid the $10,000. Grudgingly, furiously, but they paid. I used it for summer classes at community college. It wasn't $80,000, but it was a start. The wedding happened without me. The photos on Facebook showed ice sculptures and chocolate fountains and Anthony looking happy in his designer tux. Victoria's dress probably cost more than my annual salary. I noticed something else in the photos, my cousin Lisa in the background, running after Anthony's friends' kids, 15 years old, missing her own homecoming to babysit at the wedding. I sent her a private message, start keeping track of your hours, document everything, and don't let them near your college fund. She responded immediately, they already spent it on the wedding, said family helps family, some lessons are expensive, others are inherited. I sent her my lawyer's number. 6 months later, Anthony called. Marina, Victoria's pregnant. We're hoping, well, we need help with childcare. Mom said you were always so good with kids. Congratulations, I said. I charge $20 an hour, $25 for evenings and weekends. References available upon request. Marina, come on, we're family. Exactly. And this family pays for services rendered. Invoice monthly, due within 30 days. Would you like to discuss my rates? He hung up. Mom called next. You've made your point. When are you going to stop punishing us? I'm not punishing you. I'm valuing myself the way you taught me to, as labor to be used. You set the terms. I'm just following them. We're your parents, and I was your daughter, not your employee, not your built-in babysitter, not your backup fund, your daughter. But you spent 18 years teaching me that meant nothing compared to what I could do for Anthony. We love you both equally. You spent my college fund on his wedding. That's not equal. That's not even close. What do you want from us? Nothing anymore. That's the point. For the first time in my life, I want nothing from you. And it's terrifying you because you've never had to consider what you could offer me beyond demands. 3 years later, I graduated with my nursing degree, paid for with loans, grants, and long overnight shifts. My parents weren't invited to the ceremony. Anthony's marriage lasted 18 months. The divorce was messy, expensive, public. The country club venue didn't seem so important then. The ice sculptures had long since melted. He moved back home, into his childhood room, while Victoria kept the house and the baby. Mom called one last time. Anthony needs help with child support. Family helps. Don't. I cut her off. Don't you dare finish that sentence. You're doing well now. You could help. I could, but I won't. Not because I'm cruel, but because I already gave 18 years of help. I've hit my lifetime limit. We're getting older. Marina, someday we'll need. Hourly rates for elder care start at $25. I can recommend agencies if you'd prefer someone else. You really hate us that much? I don't hate you. I just learned from you. Services rendered require payment due. You taught me that when you put a price tag on my future. I'm just honoring your teachings. I hung up and looked around my apartment. Not cramped anymore. I'd moved up in the world. Diploma on the wall. Bought with my own money. Shift schedule on the fridge. Every hour accounted for and compensated. On my desk, framed, the original invoice I'd sent my parents. A reminder that family helps family, but help has value, and value demands recognition. $97,000, plus interest. Some debts can't be paid in money, others shouldn't be paid at all. But sending that invoice? Making them see me not as free labor but as a person with worth? That was priceless. And the judge agreeing? That was justice. Family helps family, but first, family has to see you as family. Not as an invoice waiting to be paid. Though sometimes, you have to send the invoice to be seen at all. $97,000. Every penny earned, every hour stolen, every lesson learned. Family helps family? Fine. But this family member charges market rate.
The smell of barbecue filled our backyard as I watched my brother-in-law Trey charm everyone with his $1,000,000 smile. That smile used to make me feel safe, like everything would always work out. Now it just makes my stomach turn. I'm Summer, and this is the story of how family betrayal taught me the true meaning of karma. Summer, these burgers are amazing, Trey called out, raising his beer. Luke really scored marrying a woman who can cook like this. He winked at my husband, who beamed with pride. I forced a smile, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. Something felt off about Trey today. The way his eyes kept darting around, how his laugh seemed a little too loud. Mom, can I have another hot dog? My daughter Caitlin tugged at my shirt, her ponytail bouncing with excitement. Sure, sweetie. I ruffled her hair, watching her skip away. The sight of her made my heart ache. Just yesterday, I'd been reviewing her college fund statement, dreaming about her future. Summer, can I talk to you for a minute? Trey's voice was lower now, serious. He gestured toward the kitchen. In private? Inside, Trey leaned against our granite countertop, suddenly looking less like the successful businessman everyone thought he was. I need your help, Summer. Just temporary. 3 months max. What kind of help? I asked, though I already knew where this was heading. I've got this amazing investment opportunity, but I'm a little short on capital. He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. I was wondering if I could borrow from the kids' college fund. I'll double it when I pay it back. My throat tightened. Trey, that's their future we're talking about. Come on, Summer. When have I ever let the family down? He spread his arms wide. You know me. I'm good for it. Before I could respond, my mother-in-law Zariah bustled in. There you two are. What are you plotting in here? Just discussing a business opportunity, Trey said smoothly. Summer's being cautious about investing. Zariah touched my arm. Oh, honey, you can trust Trey. He's got the golden touch with money. Remember how he helped Luke start his business? I felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. Through the window, I could see Luke playing with Caitlin, both laughing as they tossed a frisbee. How much? I heard myself ask. Trey's eyes lit up. Just 50,000. I'll have it back before you know it. My hands trembled as I signed the transfer papers later that afternoon. Trey had all the documents ready, which should have been my first red flag. As the sun set and our guests started leaving, I headed to the kitchen to clean up. That's when I heard it, Trey's voice from around the corner of the house, talking on his phone. Yeah, man, it was easier than I thought. These people trust me with everything. His laugh was different now, cold, dismissive. Family's such a sucker bet. I froze, the plate in my hand nearly slipping to the ground. Through the kitchen window, I could see his reflection in the gathering darkness, pacing and grinning. Don't worry about it. They won't even notice the money's gone until it's too late. And by then, he chuckled again. Well, what are they gonna do? I'm family. The plate finally slipped from my numb fingers, shattering on the floor. The sound must have startled him because he quickly ended his call. Everything okay in there? He called out, his voice back to its usual warm tone. Just dropped a plate, I answered, my own voice surprisingly steady despite the rage building inside me. As I swept up the broken pieces, I could hear him saying goodbye to Luke and Zariah outside. Each shard of ceramic I picked up felt like a piece of my trust falling apart. Need help cleaning up? Luke appeared in the doorway, still smiling from the day's events. I looked at my husband, so trusting, so proud of his big brother, and made a decision. No, I said quietly. I've got this. What I didn't tell him was that I wasn't just talking about the broken plate. I was going to fix this mess, but not in the way anyone expected. Trey had just made the biggest mistake of his life, and he didn't even know it yet. As I heard his car pull away from our house, I gripped the counter edge until my knuckles turned white. He thought family was a sucker bet? Well, he was about to learn that betting against a mother protecting her children's future was the biggest gamble of all. The bank statement stared back at me from my laptop screen, the numbers blurring as I scrolled through transaction after transaction. 3 weeks had passed since the barbecue, and something wasn't adding up. Hey, what are you doing up so late? Luke's voice startled me. I quickly minimized the window. Just checking some numbers, I said, forcing a casual tone. How was dinner with Trey? Luke dropped onto the couch beside me, loosening his tie. Great, he's really excited about this new venture. Says it's gonna change everything. I bit my tongue. The transfers I'd been tracking told a different story, one that led straight to several online gambling sites. Did he mention when he might pay back the loan? I tried to keep my voice steady. Come on, Summer, don't be that person. Luke's smile faded. Trey's never let us down before. I opened my mouth to argue, but stopped when my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, my best friend, and the only person I'd confided in. Found something. Coffee tomorrow? The next morning, I met Sarah at our usual cafe. Her legal pad was already covered in notes. Summer, this isn't good, she said, sliding a document across the table. I did some digging. Trey's business is hemorrhaging money. These are public records showing multiple liens against his properties. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. How bad? Bad enough that he's been borrowing from everyone he knows. You're not the first, just the latest. I pulled out my own research. Look at these transactions. The money went straight from our account to, well, isn't this cozy? Trey's voice cut through our conversation like ice. He stood there, perfectly dressed as always, but his eyes were hard. Sarah straightened, lawyer mode engaged. Trey, what a surprise. Not really. Small town. Everyone knows everyone's business. He pulled up a chair uninvited, including nosy sisters-in-law who can't mind their own. The money you took from my children's future is my business, I shot back. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Borrowed, Summer. The word is borrowed, and I don't appreciate you snooping around my affairs. When are you paying it back? Soon. He leaned forward, but keep pushing, and soon might turn into never. Remember who Luke trusts more. After he left, Sarah grabbed my hand. That was a threat, Summer. We need to document everything. Back home, I found Luke in his office. We need to talk about Trey. If this is about the money again, it's about more than that. I pulled out the documents Sarah had given me. Look at these. Really look at them. Luke scanned the papers, his face growing darker. These could be manipulated. Trey would never. Call the bank yourself, I challenged. Check where the money went. I'm not making this up, Luke. He stared at me for a long moment before picking up his phone. I watched as he dialed, as he asked questions, as the color drained from his face. There has to be an explanation, he whispered after hanging up. There is. I opened my laptop, showing him the gambling site transactions. He has a problem, Luke, and he's using our daughter's future to fund it. Luke slumped in his chair. I'll talk to him. He'll fix this. No. I closed the laptop firmly. Talking isn't enough anymore. We need to act. He's my brother, Summer. And Caitlin is your daughter. My voice cracked. Whose future are you going to protect? Before he could answer, my phone pinged with an email notification. My heart stopped when I saw it was from one of the investment firms I'd been investigating. The attachment showed more transactions, dozens of them, all leading to offshore gambling accounts. Luke, I said quietly, there's more. As I showed him the email, watching his face crumble with each new revelation, I felt no triumph, only sadness and determination. Trey had gambled with the wrong family's future, and now it was time to show him exactly what a mother was capable of when protecting her children. What are you going to do? Luke asked, his voice hollow. I thought of Trey's threat at the cafe, of his smug certainty that family loyalty would protect him. Whatever it takes, I answered, and I need to know if you're with me or against me. Luke stared at the documents scattered across his desk. Proof of his brother's betrayal laid bare in black and white. Finally, he looked up at me, and I saw something shift in his eyes. What's our next move? Sarah's office felt like a war room, with documents spread across her mahogany desk. My stomach churned as I read through another statement showing Trey's deceptions. We need more, Sarah said, tapping her pen against a legal pad. These gambling records are damning, but we need to prove he never intended to repay the loan. What about his business partner? Luke suggested quietly. He'd been mostly silent during our meeting, still processing the betrayal. I sat up straighter. Talon, he's been with Trey since the beginning. And he might talk, Sarah added. I heard rumors their partnership's been strained lately. My phone buzzed. Another text from Zariah asking why we'd missed Sunday dinner. I ignored it. I'll contact Talon, I decided. But we need to be careful. If Trey finds out. He won't, Luke interrupted. I'll keep him distracted. He's been pushing for another family dinner anyway. The next day, I sat in a quiet coffee shop across town, away from our usual spots. Talon arrived exactly on time, looking nothing like the confident businessman I remembered from company parties. His suit was wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sliding a coffee toward him. I know why you're here. Talon's voice was tired. The money Trey borrowed. Not just mine. How many others? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through files. At least 7 other families, plus what he's taken from the business. He looked up, his expression grim. I've been gathering evidence for months. Why haven't you gone to the authorities? Same reason you haven't. Family complications. My wife's sister invested heavily in our company. If this goes public, he trailed off. I leaned forward. It's going public either way. The question is whether you want to be seen as part of the problem or part of the solution. Talon was quiet for a long moment, stirring his untouched coffee. Finally, he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a USB drive. Everything's here. Bank statements, emails, recorded conversations. He's been using the company to launder money for his gambling debts. He slid the drive across the table. But if anyone asks, you didn't get this from me. Back at Sarah's office, we spent hours going through the files. Each new document revealed another layer of Trey's deception. Look at this. Sarah pointed to an email chain. He was planning to use your money for gambling before he even asked for the loan. This proves premeditation. My phone rang. Trey's number. I showed it to Sarah. Answer it, she mouthed. Put it on speaker. Hello? Summer, dear sister-in-law. His voice oozed charm. Why are you talking to Talon? My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. What makes you think I am? Small town, remember? People talk, and you're talking to the wrong people. Maybe you should be more worried about what those people are saying. A pause. Is that a threat? No, Trey, that's a warning. The truth has a way of coming out. Careful, Summer. His voice hardened. You're playing a dangerous game. Think about Luke. Think about the family. I am thinking about family, my children's future that you stole. I didn't steal anything. You gave me that money. Under false pretenses. How many others did you scam, Trey? Another pause, longer this time. Meet me tomorrow, just you and me. We can work something out. I caught Sarah's warning look. Not alone. Bring your records, all of them. Meet us at Sarah's office. Bringing lawyers into family business? That's cold. Stealing from your niece's future? That's colder. After I hung up, Sarah gripped my shoulder. You know he won't show. No, I agreed, but now he knows we're serious. I picked up the USB drive, and thanks to Talon, we don't need him to show. Luke called as I was leaving Sarah's office. Trey just called me, ranting about you threatening him. Are you with me on this? I asked, holding my breath. A long pause. All the way, he finally said. But Mom's involved now. She's calling everyone, saying you're trying to destroy the family. I thought of Caitlin, of her dreams we'd planned for, of the trust Trey had shattered. The family was destroyed the moment Trey decided to steal from his own niece. I said, we're just exposing the cracks. As I drove home, I saw Trey's car parked outside our house. He stood in our driveway, that familiar smile plastered on his face, waiting like a spider in its web. Game on, brother-in-law. Game on. The family dinner table felt like a battlefield. Zariah had insisted on hosting, claiming we needed to work things out as a family. I watched Trey charm everyone with stories about his latest business ventures, knowing each word was a lie. Pass the potatoes, Summer? His smile was razor sharp. I handed him the bowl, our fingers briefly touching. How's that investment going, Trey? The one you needed our money for? The table went quiet. Caitlin looked up from her plate, sensing the tension. Thriving, he replied smoothly. These things take time, of course. Really? I cut into my chicken with precise movements. Because I heard your company's facing some difficulties. Summer. Zariah's fork clattered against her plate. This is not the time or place. When is the time, Mom? Luke's quiet voice surprised everyone. When the money's all gone? Trey's facade cracked slightly. Little brother, don't tell me you're buying into these ridiculous accusations. I've seen the proof, Luke said. The gambling sites, the loans, all of it. Caitlin's eyes widened. Uncle Trey gambles? Sweetie, why don't you go watch TV in the living room? I suggested. She hesitated but left when Luke nodded. Well, this is cozy. Trey leaned back, all pretense gone. My own brother and his wife, conspiring against me. It's not conspiring when we have proof, I said. Talon showed us everything. Talon? Trey's laugh was harsh. That backstabbing? That's enough. Zariah stood up. Summer, I expected better from you. Bringing up business matters at dinner, involving Caitlin. Mom, Luke interrupted. Trey took money from your granddaughter's college fund. He's gambling it away. He would never. But I saw doubt flicker in her eyes. Show them, I told Luke. He pulled out his phone, pulling up the documentation we'd prepared. Bank statements, Mom, gambling transactions, evidence from his own business partner. Trey's chair scraped back. This is ridiculous. I don't have to sit here and sit down. Zariah's voice was steel. She was looking at the phone screen, color draining from her face. Trey, explain this. It's all perfectly legitimate business. $10,000 to Royal Vegas Casino is legitimate business? Luke's voice cracked. $20,000 to Blue Diamond Gaming? You're reading it wrong. Trey stood again. This is a witch hunt. Summer's always been jealous of my success. Success? I laughed. Is that what you call stealing from family? I didn't steal anything. You gave me that money. Under false pretenses. I stood too, hands flat on the table. You said it was for an investment. You said you'd pay it back in 3 months. It went straight to gambling sites, Trey. We have the transfers. Mom, he turned to Zariah, voice softening. You know me. Would I ever do anything to hurt this family? Zariah looked between us, tears in her eyes. I need a moment. She hurried from the room. Happy now? Trey snarled at me. Destroying the family over money? You destroyed this family the moment you decided to gamble with my daughter's future. I shot back. I'll pay it back. With what? Luke asked. The company's broke. Talon showed us the books. Talon needs to learn to keep his mouth shut. Trey's threat hung in the air. Is that what you'll do to him? I asked. What you did to the others who trusted you. Others? Zariah had returned, her face pale. What others? 7 other families, Luke said quietly. All promised returns on their investments, all lost to gambling. Trey moved toward the door. This is all a misunderstanding. Give me time. Time's up, I said. We're going to the police. He froze. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Mom? He looked at Zariah pleadingly. She sat heavily in her chair. What happened to you, Trey? What happened to my boy? Nothing happened. They're twisting everything. The numbers don't lie, Luke said. Neither does Talon. Trey's hand was on the doorknob. You'll regret this, all of you. After he left, we heard his car screech out of the driveway. Zariah was crying silently. Mom. Luke moved to comfort her, but she held up a hand. How much? She asked. How much did he take? From us, 50,000, I said. From others, we're still finding out. She nodded slowly, then looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. What are you going to do? I thought of Caitlin in the other room, of her future hanging in the balance, of all the other families Trey had betrayed. What I should have done weeks ago, I said. I'm going to make him face consequences. Sarah's office buzzed with activity as we prepared our case. Documents covered every surface, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from other victims who'd heard about our investigation. "That's the fourth family this morning," Sarah said, adding another statement to our growing pile. "Trey's been busy." Luke paced by the window. "He's not answering my calls. His office says he hasn't been in for days." "Because he's at the Grand Casino," I said, holding up my phone. "Someone just saw him there." Luke grabbed his keys. "I'm going." "Not alone." I stood up. "I'm coming with you." The drive to the casino was tense. Luke's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. What if he's lost it all? "Then he'll face the consequences," I said, but my stomach churned. The Grand Casino loomed ahead, its gaudy lights harsh in the afternoon sun. We found Trey at a blackjack table, surrounded by empty glasses. "Well, well," he slurred, not looking up from his cards. "The dynamic duo." "We need to talk," Luke said. "Now?" "I'm a little busy." Trey placed another bet. "Unless you're here to stake me, I'm due for a win." I stepped forward. "How much have you lost today?" "None of your business." "Actually," I pulled out my phone, showing him the legal documents. "It is. These are statements from 7 other families you've scammed. We're filing charges." His cards dropped. "You're bluffing." "Try me." I swiped to show more documents. "Fraud, theft by deception, embezzlement. Sarah says you're looking at serious time." Finally, he looked at us. His eyes were bloodshot, his expensive suit wrinkled. "You'd send your own brother to jail?" "You sent yourself there," Luke said quietly, "the moment you stole from my daughter." A security guard approached. "Is everything okay here?" "Fine." Trey smiled, but it was shaky. "My family was just leaving." "Actually," I said, "we're not. Not without answers." Trey stood abruptly, chips scattering. "You want answers? Fine. Let's talk outside." In the parking lot, the facade crumbled completely. "You think you're so righteous?" he spat. "Perfect summer, perfect Luke, perfect little family." "This isn't about being perfect," I said. "This is about you stealing from your niece." "I was going to pay it back. One big win. That's all I needed." "And the other families?" Luke demanded. "Were you going to pay them back too?" Trey laughed, a hollow sound. "You don't understand. The rush, the thrill when you're winning. I had it under control." "Under control?" I pulled up the bank statements. "You lost $30,000 yesterday alone." "Because you're pressuring me. If you'd just given me time." "Time for what?" Luke stepped closer. "To lose more? To destroy more families?" A sleek black car pulled into the lot. Talon stepped out, followed by 2 police officers. "What is this?" Trey's voice cracked. "Justice," I said simply. "Talon's pressing charges for embezzlement. We're all testifying." "You can't do this to me." He grabbed Luke's arm. "Brother, please. Mom will never forgive you." "Mom's the one who called the police," Luke said quietly. Trey's face went ash white. "What?" "After you left dinner, she found your old phone, saw all the messages from bookies, the threats. She called them herself." The officers approached. "Mr. Freeman, we need you to come with us." "This isn't happening," Trey muttered. "This can't be happening." "It is," I said. "And do you want to know the saddest part? If you'd just been honest, asked for help with your gambling addiction, the family would have supported you. Instead, you chose to steal and lie." "I'll destroy you," he hissed as the officers led him away. "All of you. This isn't over." "Actually," Talon stepped forward, "it is. The DA has everything. Bank records, witness statements, all of it. It's over, Trey." We watched as they put him in the police car. Luke's shoulders shook slightly. "He did this to himself," I said softly, taking his hand. "I know." He squeezed my hand. "But it still hurts." My phone buzzed. A text from Zariah. Is it done? I typed back. Yes, they have him. Her response came quickly. Come over, Caitlin's here. We need to talk about the future. As we drove away from the casino, I watched Trey's police escort in the rearview mirror. He'd gambled with more than money. He'd bet on family loyalty protecting him from consequences. It was a bet he'd lost spectacularly. What now? Luke asked. Now? I thought of Caitlin, of the other families, of the long road ahead. Now we rebuild. But first, we make sure justice is served. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters. News of Trey's arrest had spread like wildfire through our small town, and everyone wanted details of the Golden Boy's fall from grace. Mrs. Freeman, a reporter shoved a microphone in my face. Is it true your brother-in-law stole from multiple families? Luke pulled me closer as we pushed through the crowd. Sarah met us at the top of the steps, legal briefcase in hand. Ready? She asked, straightening my collar. Remember, let me do most of the talking. Inside, we found Zariah already seated in the front row. Her face was drawn, but her spine was steel straight. Did you see the newspaper? She asked, holding up the morning edition. The headline screamed, Local businessman accused of family fraud scheme. Mom, you don't have to be here, Luke said gently. Yes, I do. She gripped her purse tightly. He needs to see that actions have consequences. The bailiff called for order as Trey was led in. His designer suit had been replaced by prison orange, his confident stride now a shuffle. When he saw us, his eyes narrowed. All rise, the bailiff announced. The Honorable Judge Martinez presiding. The preliminary hearing moved quickly. Sarah presented our evidence methodically. Bank statements, witness testimonies, Talon's documentation. With each new piece of evidence, Trey seemed to shrink further into himself. Your Honor, his lawyer argued, my client is willing to make restitution. With what money? Sarah interrupted. Our investigation shows Mr. Freeman has gambling debts exceeding $2 million. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Zariah's hand found mine, squeezing tight. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we have evidence that Mr. Freeman was attempting to flee the country. Airline tickets to non-extradition countries were found in his possession at the time of arrest. Trey's lawyer shuffled his papers nervously. My client, your client. Sarah's voice cut like glass, systematically defrauded his own family members and multiple others. He preyed on trust and familial bonds for personal gain. The judge peered over his glasses. Mr. Freeman, do you have anything to say for yourself? Trey stood slowly. Your Honor, I had every intention of paying everyone back. I just needed time. Time to lose more money gambling? I couldn't help myself. Sarah shot me a warning look. Order, the judge warned. Then to Trey, continue. These people, Trey gestured to us, they're making me out to be some kind of monster, but they gave me that money willingly. Ask them. Under false pretenses, Sarah countered, with fraudulent documentation promising returns on legitimate investments. The evidence is quite compelling, the judge noted. I'm setting bail at $5 million. Trey's face went pale. I can't afford that. Then you'll remain in custody until trial. The gavel came down with finality. As they led Trey away, he turned to us. This isn't over. Family doesn't do this to family. You did this to yourself. Zariah's voice rang out clear and strong. Every time you chose gambling over honesty, every time you stole from your own blood. Outside, the reporters were waiting. Sarah handled them professionally, while Luke, Zariah, and I slipped out a side door. Mom? Luke asked as we reached the parking lot. Are you okay? No, she admitted, but I'm proud of us, all of us. She turned to me. Especially you, Summer. You saw the truth when I was too blind to see it. My phone buzzed, a text from Talon. More victims coming forward. DA wants to meet tomorrow. It's not over, I told them, showing the message. No, Luke agreed, but at least the truth is out now. We drove to pick up Caitlin from school. She ran to us, waving a paper. Mom, Dad, I got an A on my science project. I hugged her tight, thinking of the college fund we were fighting to recover. That's my girl. Is Uncle Trey still in trouble? She asked quietly. Yes, sweetie. Luke knelt beside her. He did some bad things, and now he has to face the consequences. Like when I broke Mom's vase and had to use my allowance to buy a new one. A laugh bubbled up despite everything. Something like that, just bigger. Back home, Sarah called with updates. More victims were emerging. The DA was building an even stronger case, and forensic accountants had traced money to offshore accounts. We're going to win this, she assured me. He's not getting away with it. After hanging up, I found Luke in our bedroom, looking at old family photos. One showed him and Trey as kids, both grinning at the camera. We did the right thing, I said softly. I know. He put the photo down, but doing the right thing still hurts like hell. The courtroom fell silent as I took the witness stand. 3 months had passed since Trey's arrest, and the trial was finally reaching its climax. He sat at the defense table, still wearing his prison orange, still wearing that smirk, though it looked more desperate now. Please state your name for the record, the prosecutor began. Summer Freeman. And what is your relationship to the defendant? He's my brother-in-law, my husband Luke's older brother. The prosecutor nodded, approaching with a document. Can you tell us about the events of June 15th? That was the day Trey asked to borrow money from our daughter's college fund. My voice stayed steady as I recounted the barbecue, the private conversation, the overheard phone call. And how much did the defendant take? $50,000. Objection. Trey's lawyer stood. The word take implies theft. My client was given this money. Sustained, the judge agreed. Rephrase. How much did Mr. Freeman receive from your daughter's college fund? I repeated the amount, then detailed the paper trail Sarah had helped us uncover. With each revelation, I watched Trey's smirk fade. Mrs. Freeman, the prosecutor continued, what made you suspicious? The phone call I overheard. He was laughing about how easy it was to get money from family, called us suckers. I looked directly at Trey. Then I found the gambling transactions. Trey's lawyer cross-examined aggressively. Isn't it true you've always been jealous of my client's success? What success? I shot back. The facade he maintained while stealing from his own family? Answer the question, Mrs. Freeman. No, I wasn't jealous. I was suspicious. There's a difference. And isn't it true you orchestrated this whole investigation to destroy my client's reputation? He destroyed his own reputation when he chose to gamble with children's futures. The defense lawyer changed tactics. You gave him this money willingly, correct? Under false pretenses, he claimed it was for a legitimate investment. But you gave it willingly? Because he was family. My voice cracked slightly. Because we trusted him. After I stepped down, Talon took the stand. His testimony was devastating. Detailed records of embezzlement, secret gambling accounts, desperate attempts to cover losses with new victims' money. During a recess, Luke found me in the hallway. You did great up there. Thanks. I leaned against him. How's your mom holding up? She's next to testify. Says she's ready. Zariah's testimony proved to be the final nail in Trey's coffin. She spoke with quiet dignity about finding his old phone, about the threatening messages from bookies, about her own role in calling the police. My son, she said, looking directly at Trey, chose gambling over family, chose lies over trust. As his mother, it breaks my heart. But as a grandmother, I cannot stay silent while he steals from innocent children. Trey finally cracked. He stood up suddenly, shocking everyone. You're all against me. This is a conspiracy. Mr. Freeman, sit down, the judge ordered. You think you're better than me? He shouted. I made this family. Everything Luke has is because of me. Remove the defendant, the judge commanded. As guards approached, Trey's rage turned to desperation. Mom, please, tell them I was going to pay it back. Zariah didn't flinch. Like you paid back the others? Like you paid back Mrs. Watson, who lost her retirement? Or the Thompsons, who lost their house? They dragged him out, his shouts echoing through the courtroom. The judge called for order. During closing arguments, Sarah sat with us in the gallery. The prosecutor's summary was damning. Systematic fraud, betrayal of trust, gambling addiction left untreated, multiple victims across state lines. The jury took only 2 hours to reach a verdict. On the charge of grand theft by deception, how do you find? Guilty? On the charge of fraud, guilty. The guilty verdicts kept coming. With each one, I felt the weight of the past months lifting. When the judge announced the sentence, 15 years with no possibility of parole for 8 years, plus full restitution to all victims, Trey finally stopped smirking. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed again. This time, I faced them directly. Mrs. Freeman, what do you say to families who might be facing similar situations? I thought of all the nights I doubted myself, all the family tension, all the pain of exposing the truth. Trust your instincts, I said firmly, and remember that real family doesn't steal from family. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. As we walked away, Caitlin ran up from where she'd been waiting with a family friend. Is it over, Mom? I hugged her tight. Yes, sweetie, the truth won. And my college fund? The judge ordered Uncle Trey to pay it all back, plus extra. She nodded solemnly. Good, because I want to be a lawyer like Aunt Sarah. Despite everything, we all laughed. Sometimes justice comes full circle. The doorbell chimed as I balanced a tray of cookies, fresh from the oven. Opening the door revealed Sarah, clutching a thick manila envelope. They found it, she announced, striding into our kitchen. The offshore account Trey was hiding. The forensic accountants finally cracked it. Luke looked up from helping Caitlin with her homework. How much? Nearly $1 million. Sarah spread documents across our counter. They're starting the recovery process. Your family's money will be the first returned, along with the Thompsons and Watsons. My hands shook slightly as I set down the cookies. All of it? Plus interest. Sarah smiled. The judge was very clear about that part. The front door opened again, Zariah, carrying grocery bags. Since the trial, she'd been spending more time with us, making up for lost years of focusing on the wrong son. I brought ingredients for dinner, she announced, then noticed Sarah's presence. Oh, is this good news or bad news? The best news, Luke said, showing her the documents. Zariah sank into a chair. He really had that much hidden away? More than that, Sarah explained. The gambling wasn't his only secret. He was running a whole Ponzi scheme through his business. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Talon, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. Did Sarah tell you about the account? We're just going through the details, I said, offering him a cookie. There's more, he added. The company's being restructured. Luke, we want you to take over Trey's position. Luke's eyes widened. Me? You know the business better than anyone, and the board trusts you. Caitlin tugged at my sleeve. Mom, does this mean my college fund is safe? More than safe, I hugged her. It means all the wrong things are being made right. Speaking of right, Sarah pulled out another document. Mrs. Watson wanted you to have this. It was a thank you card, signed by dozens of Trey's victims. Messages of gratitude filled every space. Thank you for being brave. You gave us our lives back. Your strength helped us all. The support group is really helping people, Sarah explained. Victims of financial fraud often feel so alone, so ashamed. You changed that. We all did, I corrected, looking around at our kitchen full of allies. Zariah wiped her eyes. I keep thinking about Trey, alone in that cell. He made his choices, Luke said gently, but he's getting help now. Real help for the gambling addiction. He wrote to me, she admitted, says he's finally understanding what he did wrong, that he's sorry. Actions speak louder than words, I said, but without bitterness. The anger had faded, replaced by something like peace. Speaking of actions, Talon pulled out his phone. The story's gone national. People are calling you a hero, Summer. I shook my head. I'm not a hero. I'm just a mom who refused to let someone steal her daughter's future. That's what makes you a hero, Caitlin said seriously, making us all laugh. The evening turned into an impromptu celebration. As we gathered around our dining table, I looked at each face. Luke, stronger for having chosen truth over blind loyalty. Zariah, wiser and more present. Sarah and Talon, who risked their careers to fight for justice, and Caitlin, already showing signs of the fierce advocate she might become. I have an announcement, Caitlin stood up suddenly. I got the highest grade on my essay about moral courage. What was your topic? Talon asked. She beamed. I wrote about Mom, about how sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting dragons, but standing up to family when they're wrong. Luke squeezed my hand under the table, and, she continued, Ms. Roberts wants me to read it at the school assembly. She says it might help other kids whose families are going through hard times. That's my girl, I whispered, throat tight with emotion. As dinner wound down, Sarah gathered her documents. The restitution payments will start next week. Every victim will get their money back. It's not just about the money anymore, I realized aloud. It's about showing that truth matters, that trust is sacred, that family doesn't mean enabling wrong choices, and that mothers are a force to be reckoned with, Zariah added with a wink. Later, after everyone had left and Caitlin was in bed, Luke and I sat on our porch swing. The night was quiet, peaceful. Thank you, he said suddenly. For what? For being stronger than all of us, for seeing the truth when we couldn't, for protecting our family by being willing to break it apart to save it. I leaned against him, watching the stars. Sometimes the deepest wounds lead to the greatest healing. Sometimes the hardest battles leave you stronger. And sometimes, just sometimes, doing the right thing brings its own kind of peace. We're going to be okay, I said softly, and for the first time in months, I knew it was absolutely true.
I always thought family meant everything to my brother Sullivan, until the day I discovered his wedding announcement in the society pages of the Boston Globe. There it was in black and white. My own brother, married into the prestigious Martin family, without breathing a word to any of us. My name is Tori, and that morning changed everything. I was having breakfast with Mom at our small kitchen table, watching her do the crossword puzzle like she did every Sunday, when I nearly choked on my coffee. Mom, I whispered, my hands trembling as I held the paper. You need to see this. She looked up, reading glasses perched on her nose, and took the paper from my shaking hands. The color drained from her face as she read the announcement. The coffee pot between us grew cold as we sat in stunned silence. But we just had dinner with him last week, she finally managed. He didn't say anything about being engaged, let alone married. The announcement described an intimate ceremony at the Martin estate, complete with a string quartet and champagne fountain. The bride, Rosalie Martin, looked radiant in designer white. And there was Sullivan, my brother, beaming in a tuxedo that probably cost more than our monthly rent. I'm calling him, I said, grabbing my phone. Mom reached across the table and grabbed my wrist. Wait, honey, let's think about this. But I was already dialing. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again. Finally, a text came through. Can't talk now. On honeymoon. We'll explain everything later. We'll explain everything later? I read aloud, my voice cracking. That's all he has to say? Mom's shoulders slumped as she stared at the wedding photo. I always wanted to see him in a tuxedo on his wedding day, she whispered. I just thought I'd be there to see it. That's when the tears started falling down her cheeks. My mother, who'd raised us alone after Dad died, who'd worked 2 jobs to put food on our table, who'd never missed a single one of Sullivan's baseball games or my dance recitals, sat there crying over her Sunday crossword puzzle. I felt something snap inside me. 3 weeks later, Sullivan finally showed up at our door. He was tanned from his honeymoon, wearing an expensive watch that caught the light as he spread his hands apologetically. It just happened so fast, he explained, pacing our small living room. Rosalie's family, they have connections. They're opening doors for me I never dreamed possible. Doors? I interrupted. What about the door to your own home? The one you walked out of without a word? Tori, please understand. This was a strategic decision. The Martins, they're different from us. They have expectations about these things. A big wedding would have been complicated. Complicated? Mom's voice was barely above a whisper. We're complicated? Sullivan ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. That's not what I meant. Look, I'm still me. I'm still your son, your brother. Nothing's changed. But everything had changed. I could see it in the way he kept checking his phone, the way his eyes darted around our modest living room like he was seeing it for the first time, and finding it wanting. I have to go, he said after barely 15 minutes. Board meeting in the morning, but I'll make it up to you both, I promise. Things are going to be different now. Better. After he left, Mom went to her room and closed the door. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the family photos on our refrigerator. Sullivan and me at the beach. Sullivan's college graduation, where Mom and I had cheered so loud we'd embarrassed him. All those memories, and he'd thrown them away for a champagne fountain and a string quartet. That night, I sat at my laptop until dawn, researching business schools and startup strategies. I'd always had a head for numbers, but I'd put my own ambitions on hold to help Mom with the bills after college. Now, looking at the acceptance letter I'd never opened from Harvard Business School, I made a decision. I'm going back to school, I announced at breakfast the next morning. And then I'm going to build something of my own. Something bigger than anything the Martins have. Mom looked up from her coffee, her eyes still red from crying. Honey, don't let anger drive your decisions. It's not anger, Mom, I said, even though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. It's clarity. Sullivan showed us exactly who he is. Now it's my turn to show him who I am. I didn't know then that it would take me 7 years to build my revenge. I didn't know the price I'd pay, or the lessons I'd learn. I just knew that somewhere between that wedding announcement and my brother's dismissive goodbye, the path of my life had shifted, and I was ready to walk it no matter where it led. 7 years can change everything. I learned that sitting in my corner office, staring at the skyline of downtown Boston while Zoe, my best friend and business partner, paced in front of my desk. Have you seen this? She tossed a financial report onto my desk. Sullivan's company is hemorrhaging money. Their stock dropped 30% this quarter alone. I picked up the report, scanning the numbers I'd already memorized. Looks like the Martin family connections aren't worth what they used to be. Are you smiling? Zoe stopped pacing. Tori, I know that look. I wasn't smiling. Not exactly. But seeing Sullivan's company falter stirred something in me I couldn't quite name. We should consider acquiring them, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Their client base would complement our portfolio. Their client base is jumping ship faster than rats from a burning building, Zoe countered. Besides, isn't this a little personal? The intercom buzzed before I could answer. Ms. Wise, Mr. Oliver is here for your meeting. Deacon Oliver walked in moments later, impeccable in his tailored suit. As one of our major investors, he had a keen eye for opportunities and weaknesses. Ladies, he nodded, taking a seat. I assume you've seen the news about Sullivan Industries? We were just discussing it, Zoe said, shooting me a warning look. Good. Deacon leaned forward. Because I think we should make a play for them. Their technology patents alone are worth the investment. I kept my face carefully blank. You think it's a good fit? I think it's perfect timing. They're vulnerable, we're strong. Simple as that. He paused, studying me. Unless there's something I should know? No, I said quickly. Too quickly, Zoe jumped in. We'll need to do our due diligence. Their financial situation is exactly why we should move now. Deacon interrupted. Before someone else does. After he left, Zoe closed my office door and turned to me. Are you really ready for this? To face him? I thought about Mom, who still did her crossword puzzles every Sunday, leaving the chair across from her empty just in case. About the wedding invitations we never received to any of Sullivan's society events. About the way he'd dismissed our family like we were something to be ashamed of. I'm more than ready, I said. That evening, I met Quinn, my mentor, for drinks at our usual spot. The bar was quiet, jazz playing softly in the background. You've built something remarkable, Quinn said, swirling his scotch. But revenge is a tricky business. It can consume you if you're not careful. This isn't about revenge, I protested. It's a sound business decision. Quinn's laugh was gentle but knowing. Keep telling yourself that. Just remember, the moment you acquire his company, everything changes. Are you prepared for those changes? I thought about the day I'd started this journey. How I'd walked into my first business class at Harvard with nothing but determination and a student loan. How I'd met Zoe in that class, and how we'd stayed up late planning our future company. How every setback had only made me work harder. I built this company from nothing, I said, while Sullivan rode his wife's family connections straight to the top. Now he's falling, and I'm rising. That's not revenge. That's karma. Karma doesn't usually require a hostile takeover, Quinn pointed out. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Zoe. Turn on the business news, she said without preamble. Now. I signaled the bartender to change the channel. There was Sullivan, looking considerably less polished than his wedding photos, standing at a podium. Confident that Sullivan Industries will weather this temporary setback, he was saying. Our foundation is strong, our future is bright. Liar, I whispered, watching his left eye twitch, a tell he'd had since childhood. The market's not buying it, Zoe said in my ear. Their stock dropped another 8% after hours. I watched my brother field questions, his confidence cracking slightly around the edges. He looked older, tired. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then he said something that made my blood freeze. My family has always believed in perseverance through adversity, he declared proudly. It's how we were raised. Quinn must have seen my expression change. Tori? I stood up, grabbing my coat. Call the board, I told Zoe. First thing tomorrow, we're making our move. Are you sure? Zoe asked. He wants to talk about family? I said, my voice hard. Fine, let's talk about family. I ended the call and looked at Quinn. He raised his glass in a silent toast. Well, he said, this should be interesting. As I walked out into the cool night air, I felt 7 years of preparation crystallizing into this moment. Sullivan had no idea what was coming, but he was about to learn that the sister he'd left behind had become someone entirely new, someone who knew exactly how to make him pay attention. The boardroom buzzed with anticipation as I laid out our acquisition strategy. 10 pairs of eyes watched me pace in front of the projection screen, numbers and graphs flickering behind me. Sullivan Industries is undervalued, I explained, clicking to the next slide. Their patents alone are worth twice their current market cap. With their stock price at an all-time low, the timing is perfect. And their leadership? Asked Patricia, our most skeptical board member. The current CEO will be replaced. I cut in smoothly. That's non-negotiable. Zoe coughed quietly beside me. I caught her warning glance and softened my tone. Their management has proven ineffective. Change is necessary for the company's survival. After the meeting, Zoe followed me to my office. Well, that wasn't obvious at all. What wasn't? The way you practically snarled at the mention of their CEO. She perched on the edge of my desk. The board's going to start asking questions if you can't keep your cool. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Coming for Sunday dinner? I stared at the message, remembering all the Sunday dinners Sullivan had missed. 7 years of empty chairs and unspoken words. I need to see Quinn, I said, grabbing my coat. I found him at his favorite spot in the public garden, feeding pigeons despite the "do not feed wildlife" signs. He looked up as I approached, patting the bench beside him. I wondered when you'd show up, he said. The board approved the acquisition plan. And how does that make you feel? I threw a handful of breadcrumbs to the pigeons. Like I'm finally winning. Winning what? Don't do that, I snapped. Don't make this into some therapy session. Quinn's silence was louder than any response. We watched the pigeons squabble over breadcrumbs until I couldn't stand it anymore. He took everything from us, I said. Our family, our trust, our dignity. He made Mom cry every Sunday for a year. And this will fix that? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Deacon. Turn on CNBC, he said without preamble. Sullivan's doing damage control. I pulled up the live stream on my phone. There was my brother, looking more polished than his last appearance, standing at another podium. Rumors of a hostile takeover are greatly exaggerated, he was saying. Sullivan Industries remains committed to independence and growth. Quinn leaned over to watch. Interesting choice of words. Independence. He's always been independent, I said bitterly. That's the problem. The camera panned to show Rosalie standing beside him, her hand on his arm. They looked like the perfect power couple, except I could see the strain around his eyes, the way his hands gripped the podium too tightly. I should call Mom, I said suddenly, before she sees this. Good idea. Quinn nodded. Family should hear news from family. The irony of his words wasn't lost on me. Mom answered on the first ring. I was just thinking about you, she said. I'm making your favorite lasagna for Sunday. Mom. I took a deep breath. There's something I need to tell you. The silence on the other end stretched out after I explained everything. Finally, she spoke. Are you doing this for the right reasons? It's a smart business move, I said automatically. That's not what I asked. I watched a pigeon strut past, proud and purposeful. I'm doing it because I can, because he needs to see who I've become. And who is that, sweetheart? The question hit me harder than I expected. Quinn pretended to be completely absorbed in feeding the pigeons, but I knew he was listening. Someone who matters, I said finally. Someone he can't ignore. Mom sighed. You've always mattered, Tori. With or without a corner office. After we hung up, Quinn stood and brushed breadcrumbs from his coat. Your mother's a wise woman. She is, I agreed, but she's also too forgiving. And you're not forgiving enough, he countered. Be careful, Tori. Revenge is like holding a hot coal. You'll burn yourself trying to throw it at someone else. My phone buzzed again. Zoe with updates about the acquisition paperwork. The machinery was in motion. In a few weeks, I would be face to face with Sullivan, watching his world shift like mine had 7 years ago. Maybe I want to get burned, I told Quinn. He shook his head. No, you don't. You want justice. But remember, justice without mercy is just another form of cruelty. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Sometimes cruelty is earned. As I walked away, leaving Quinn with his pigeons and wisdom, I felt the weight of what was coming. Soon, Sullivan would learn that the sister he'd left behind had become someone with the power to reshape his world. The question was, would reshaping his world reshape mine too? The Boston Technology Summit was exactly the kind of event Sullivan loved. All glitz and networking, with champagne flowing freely. I watched from across the ballroom as he worked the crowd, that familiar, confident smile plastered on his face. Are you sure about this? Zoe whispered beside me. We could send someone else to make the initial contact. I adjusted my name tag, which read only TY's CEO. He won't recognize me. It's been 7 years and he's not exactly the type to read industry profiles. If you say so. Zoe grabbed 2 champagne flutes from a passing waiter. But try not to look like you're planning his murder. I forced my shoulders to relax and plastered on my best networking smile. Across the room, Sullivan was deep in conversation with a group of investors. Rosalie stood at his side, elegant as ever in a designer dress that probably cost more than my first car. "Time to mingle," I said, moving toward their group. As I approached, I caught fragments of Sullivan's conversation. Confident that our new initiatives will turn things around. The market just needs time to... Time isn't always on our side, though, is it? I interrupted smoothly, stepping into the circle. Especially in tech. Sullivan turned, that practiced smile never wavering. "Indeed. And you are... T-wise," I said, extending my hand. "I've been following your company's situation with interest." His handshake was firm, professional, no hint of recognition in his eyes. "All situations are temporary. We're implementing aggressive growth strategies. Growth strategies require capital," I pointed out, "and trust from investors." Something flickered in his expression, a crack in the confident facade. Rosalie touched his arm protectively. "My husband has the full support of our board," she said, "and our family." I couldn't help myself. Family support is crucial, isn't it? Nothing worse than feeling abandoned by those closest to you. Sullivan's left eye twitched. "If you'll excuse us, I see some people we need to speak with." "Of course," I smiled. "I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other soon." As they walked away, Zoe appeared at my elbow. Well, that was subtle as a sledgehammer. "Did you see his face when I mentioned family?" I took a long sip of champagne. He actually flinched. "Tori." Zoe hesitated. "Maybe Quinn is right. Maybe..." "Don't." I cut her off. "The paperwork is already in motion. There's no turning back now." Later that evening, I found myself at the bar, watching Sullivan work the room. He'd always been good at this, making people feel important, special. It's how he'd charmed his way into the Martin family. Quite the performance, isn't it? A voice beside me made me jump. It was Deacon. "I didn't know you'd be here," I said. I never miss a chance to watch Sharks Circle. He ordered a scotch. "Speaking of which, our legal team finished the preliminary paperwork. We can move whenever you're ready." I watched Sullivan laugh at something Rosalie said, his hand resting possessively on her lower back. "How long until the offer becomes public?" 48 hours, give or take. Once we file with the SEC, the news will break fast." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Saw Sullivan on the business news again. Are you okay?" Before I could respond, Sullivan's voice carried across the bar. "The market is cyclical. What goes down must come up. Unless someone pushes it further down," I muttered. Deacon raised an eyebrow. "You know, when I first suggested this acquisition, I thought it was just business. But there's something personal here, isn't there?" I met his gaze steadily. "Everything's personal in business. Isn't that what you always say?" He studied me for a moment. "Just make sure whatever this is doesn't interfere with our bottom line." "Trust me," I said, watching Sullivan and Rosalie glide toward the exit. "The bottom line is exactly what I'm focused on." His bottom line. After they left, I stayed at the bar, nursing my drink and thinking about Sunday dinners and crossword puzzles. About the way Mom's voice still caught whenever she mentioned Sullivan's name. About the look in his eyes tonight when I'd mentioned family. That brief flash of... what? Guilt? Fear? Or just annoyance at a presumptuous stranger? My phone buzzed again. Quinn this time. "How did it go?" I typed back. He didn't recognize me. Quinn's response was immediate. "Maybe that's not the real problem." I put my phone away without responding. In 48 hours, Sullivan's carefully constructed world would start to crumble. He'd discovered that the sister he'd forgotten had become someone with the power to destroy everything he'd built. And yet, watching him tonight, I'd felt something unexpected. A hollow ache where satisfaction should have been. But it was too late for second thoughts. The machinery was in motion, and soon everyone would know exactly who T.Y.'s really was. The news broke at 9:01 a.m. sharp. I watched from my office as CNBC's ticker flashed the headline, "Breaking, Wise Enterprises launches, hostile takeover bid for Sullivan Industries." Zoe burst through my door without knocking. "It's chaos out there. Sullivan's board is in emergency session. Their stock is going crazy and..." My phone exploded with notifications. First came the text from Mom. "Be careful, sweetheart." Then Quinn. "Remember what we talked about." And finally Deacon. "Boardroom. Now." "Showtime," I said, straightening my jacket. The boardroom was packed when we arrived. Deacon stood at the head of the table, fielding calls from investors. Our legal team huddled in one corner, papers spread everywhere. "Their CEO is demanding a meeting," Deacon announced as I walked in. "Immediately." "Good," I said, taking my seat. "Set it up for this afternoon." Patricia cleared her throat. "Perhaps someone else should handle the initial..." "No," I cut her off. "I'll do it." "Tori," Zoe whispered. "Maybe they're right. You're too close to this." Before I could respond, the TV on the wall caught everyone's attention. Sullivan was making an emergency press statement outside his office building. "This hostile takeover attempt is unwarranted and unwelcome," he declared, looking directly into the cameras. "Sullivan Industries is not for sale." Rosalie stood behind him, her face a mask of controlled concern. The reporters shouted questions. "What about the falling stock price? How will you fight this? Do you know T.Y.'s personally?" Sullivan's eye twitched at the last question. "I've had limited interaction with their CEO, but I can assure you, this attempt will fail." "Limited interaction," I repeated softly. "That's one way to put it." My phone rang. It was Mom again. I stepped out to take the call. "I saw him on TV," she said without preamble. "He looks terrible." "He should." "Tori." She paused. "Is this really what you want?" Before I could answer, Zoe poked her head out. "They're here, Sullivan and his team." "Mom, I have to go." "Just remember, whatever happens, you're still my daughter, and he's still your brother." I ended the call and took a deep breath. When I walked into the conference room, Sullivan was already seated, flanked by his lawyers. He stood when I entered, that practiced smile in place. "Ms. Wise, I believe we met at the..." His voice trailed off as recognition finally hit. The color drained from his face. "Tori?" "Hello, Sullivan." I sat down across from him. "It's been a while. This is impossible." He looked at his lawyers, then back at me. "You can't be..." "The CEO of Wise Enterprises? The one trying to buy your company?" I smiled. Surprise. His lawyers shifted uncomfortably. One whispered something in his ear, but Sullivan waved him off. "Is this some kind of joke?" he demanded. "Some kind of revenge?" "Revenge?" I kept my voice level. "This is business, Sullivan. Just like your marriage was business, remember? A strategic decision?" He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I won't let you destroy everything I've built." "Like you destroyed our family?" "That's not... I didn't..." For once, he seemed at a loss for words. Deacon cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should focus on the terms of the offer." "The terms are simple," I said, sliding a folder across the table. "We buy controlling interest. You step down. Clean break." Sullivan's hands shook as he opened the folder. "This is insane. You're my sister." "Am I? I thought we were just complicated. Isn't that what you called us?" His lawyers huddled around him, whispering urgently. I could see the moment he realized how trapped he was. The same look he'd had as a kid when he got caught in a lie. "I need time," he said finally, "to consider options." You have 24 hours, I replied, standing up. Oh, and Sullivan? Maybe call Mom sometime. She still does crosswords on Sunday mornings. I walked out before he could respond, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Zoe caught up with me at the elevator. Well, that was intense, she said. It's not over yet. No, she agreed. But are you sure this is what you wanted? The look on his face, I thought about that look. Shock giving way to recognition, then fear, then something else. Something that looked almost like shame. What I want, I said as the elevator doors closed, is for him to understand what he did. Really understand. But as we descended, I couldn't shake the memory of his shaking hands or the way his voice cracked when he said, sister. 7 years of planning, and somehow victory felt different than I'd imagined. Tomorrow, Sullivan would have to make his choice. And so, I realized, would I? 24 hours later, I stood at the podium in Sullivan Industries' main conference room, facing a sea of shocked faces. The acquisition was complete. Sullivan had folded faster than anyone expected. As your new CEO, I announced, I want to assure everyone that this transition will be smooth and... The door burst open. Sullivan stormed in, Rosalie right behind him. You can't do this, he shouted. These people trust me, they depend on me. Security moved to intercept him, but I held up my hand. Let him speak. After all, family should always have a voice, right, Sullivan? The room went deadly quiet. Employees exchanged confused glances. Rosalie's perfectly maintained composure cracked. Family? She whispered. Sullivan, what is she talking about? I stepped away from the podium. Oh, he didn't tell you. I'm his sister. The one he erased from his life 7 years ago when he married into your family. Sullivan's face reddened. That's not what happened. I was protecting what? I cut him off. Your image? Your social climbing? Tell them, Sullivan. Tell them how you got married without telling your own mother. How you never invited us to a single family event. How you pretended we didn't exist because we weren't good enough for your new life. Rosalie took a step back from him. Is this true? Rosalie, please. He reached for her hand. I can explain. Explain what? I pressed. How you told us it was a strategic decision to exclude your family from your wedding? Or how about explaining to your employees how you've been making the same kind of strategic decisions with their careers? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I could see recognition dawning on some faces. Employees who'd been let go without warning. Projects canceled without explanation. That's different, Sullivan protested. Business decisions are just like family decisions to you. I finished. Disposable when inconvenient. Rosalie's voice shook. 7 years, and you never once mentioned a sister, a mother. Because he was ashamed, I said. Not of us, but of himself. Sullivan's lawyers appeared at the door, but he waved them away. For the first time, I saw his carefully constructed facade completely crumble. You don't understand, he said, his voice breaking. I had to become someone else. Someone worthy of... Worthy? Rosalie interrupted. My family would have welcomed yours with open arms. We're not monsters, Sullivan. No, I agreed. The monster was the one who thought his own family would embarrass him. The room had grown so quiet you could hear phones buzzing with incoming news alerts. Our takeover was making headlines, but not for the reasons anyone expected. I want to meet them, Rosalie suddenly announced. Your mother. I want to know the family my husband denied me. Sullivan's face went pale. Rosalie, please. Mom still sets a place for you, I told him. Every Sunday, even after 7 years. Something in his expression changed, a crack in the armor I'd been trying to break through for 7 years. I never meant, he started. To hurt us? I finished. To break Mom's heart? To pretend your own sister was a stranger at a business conference? Security shifted uncomfortably. Employees whispered among themselves. Rosalie stood apart from Sullivan now, her arms crossed. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes, I announced to the room. Everyone except the executive team is dismissed. And Sullivan? You might want to call Mom. She's probably watching this on the business news right now. As people filed out, Sullivan remained rooted to the spot. Rosalie touched his arm briefly. I'll be at my mother's, she said quietly. When you're ready to tell me the whole truth about your family, your real family, you know where to find me. She walked out, leaving Sullivan looking more lost than I'd ever seen him. For a moment, I saw my brother again. Not the polished CEO, but the kid who used to protect me from playground bullies. Was it worth it? I asked softly. Trading us for all this? He looked around the conference room, at the empty chairs and the logo he'd built his life around. I don't know anymore, he whispered. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. But remember, healing takes more courage than hurting. I looked at Sullivan, still standing there like a statue. Board meeting's in 8 minutes, I said. You can stay if you want. Or you can go call Mom. Your choice. But this time, make it for the right reasons. He met my eyes for the first time. Really met them. And I saw something there I hadn't expected. Recognition. Not just of who I was, but of who he'd been. Who he'd become. And maybe, just maybe, who he could be again. The choice was his now. And for the first time in 7 years, I honestly didn't know what he would choose. Sullivan chose the board meeting. Of course he did. But 2 hours later, as I sat in my new office, his old office, he appeared in the doorway, looking more disheveled than I'd seen him in 7 years. I called Mom, he said quietly. I set down the acquisition papers I'd been reviewing. And? She cried. He ran a hand through his hair. She cried, and all she said was, I'm making lasagna on Sunday. That's Mom for you. He took a tentative step into the office. You've done well for yourself. No thanks to you. Is that what this is about? He gestured around the office. Proving something to me? Not everything is about you, Sullivan. I stood up. Though that's always been hard for you to understand. Then explain it to me, he said, dropping into a chair. Explain how my little sister engineered a hostile takeover just to prove a point. A point? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about points? Let's talk about Mom working double shifts to put you through business school. Let's talk about her skipping meals so you could have new suits for interviews. Let's talk about how you repaid that by erasing us from your life. I didn't erase you, he protested. I was trying to protect. If you say protect one more time, I swear to God. Fine. He stood up so quickly the chair toppled backward. I was ashamed. Is that what you want to hear? I was ashamed of our cramped apartment, of Mom's waitress uniform, of everything that reminded me of where I came from. The words hung in the air between us. Outside, the city hummed with afternoon traffic, oblivious to our drama unfolding 30 stories up. Rosalie called me, I said finally. She's having dinner with Mom tonight. Sullivan's face went pale. What? Funny how your wife turns out to be a better person than you gave her credit for. He slumped against the wall. I've lost everything, haven't I? No, I said sharply. You gave everything away. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Zoe reminding me about the press conference scheduled for tomorrow. The official announcement of the new leadership structure. You know what the worst part is? I continued. Mom never stopped loving you. Never stopped defending you. Sullivan's just busy, she'd say. Sullivan's building his future. Even when you missed her birthday. Even when you sent a generic Christmas card addressed to family. I can't change the past, he whispered. No, but you can stop running from it. I walked to the window, looking out at the city. You have a choice now, Sullivan. Keep pretending to be someone you're not, or remember who you really are. And who am I? His voice cracked. The ambitious brother who betrayed his family? The failed CEO who lost his company to his sister? You're the kid who taught me to ride a bike, I said, still facing the window. Who helped me with my math homework? Who promised Mom we'd always take care of each other, When I turned around, he was crying. Actually crying, like I hadn't seen since Dad's funeral. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted. "Start with Sunday dinner," I suggested. "Mom's making lasagna, remember?" He wiped his eyes. "Just like that? After everything?" "No, not just like that. You have a lot to make up for. To Mom, to Rosalie, to me. But you have to start somewhere." My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. "Rosalie is lovely. Bringing her famous apple pie on Sunday. Will we need 2 pies?" I showed Sullivan the text. His hands shook as he read it. "I don't deserve this chance," he said. "Probably not," I agreed. "But that's the thing about family, real family. They love you anyway." He handed back my phone. "What about the company? The company stays with me. You need to focus on fixing what's really broken, and it's not your stock price." He nodded slowly. "I should go find Rosalie." "Yes, you should." I sat back down at my desk. "And Sullivan? Mom likes yellow roses, in case you were wondering what to bring on Sunday." He paused at the door. "Tori, I'm sorry. For everything." "I know," I said. "Now prove it." After he left, I called Quinn. "Well?" he answered. "Did revenge taste as sweet as you imagined?" I thought about Sullivan's tears, about Mom's lasagna, about Rosalie's apple pie. It wasn't about revenge in the end, I realized. It was about breaking down the walls he built, even if I had to use a corporate battering ram to do it. Quinn chuckled. "And now?" I looked at the family photo on my desk, the old one from before everything changed. Now we see if he remembers how to be a brother again. The scent of Mom's lasagna filled the house as I helped set the table. 5 places, not just the usual 3. Zoe had brought wine and Rosalie's apple pies cooled on the counter. "He's late," Mom said, checking her watch for the 3rd time. "He'll come," Rosalie assured her, arranging flowers in a vase, yellow roses, just as I'd suggested. The doorbell rang. Mom froze, her hand clutching her crossword puzzle. I squeezed her shoulder as I passed. Sullivan stood on the porch, looking nothing like the polished CEO he'd been just days ago. He wore jeans and a simple sweater, holding a small wrapped package. "I wasn't sure," he started. "Just come in," I said. He stepped into the house and stopped short. The walls still held the same family photos he'd turned his back on. His graduation, my dance recitals, Mom's birthday parties. "Nothing's changed," he whispered. "Everything's changed," I corrected. "But some things stay the same." Mom appeared in the hallway. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Sullivan crossed the space between them in 3 steps and wrapped her in a hug. "I'm sorry," he said into her hair. "I'm so sorry, Mom." She held him tight, and I saw tears rolling down her cheeks. "My boy," she whispered. "My beautiful, foolish boy." Rosalie and Zoe appeared from the kitchen, giving them space. I moved to join them, but Sullivan caught my arm. "Wait," he said, pulling back from Mom. He handed her the package. "Open it, please." Mom unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a leather-bound book. She opened it and gasped. "It's every crossword puzzle I missed," Sullivan explained. 7 years of Sundays. I did them all last night. Even the ones I got wrong, I kept them. Because that's what family does, right? We keep trying, even when we mess up. Mom touched the pages gently. "You remembered. I never forgot," he said. "I just lost my way." "Well," Zoe announced, breaking the tension. "The wine isn't getting any younger, and that lasagna smells amazing." We gathered around the table, the same table where I'd first seen Sullivan's wedding announcement all those years ago. Mom insisted he sit in his old spot, across from me. "To new beginnings," Rosalie proposed, raising her glass. "And old traditions," Mom added. Sullivan cleared his throat. "I have something else to say." He looked at me. "I've been thinking about what you said, about fixing what's really broken. I'm starting therapy next week, and I've enrolled in a community college teaching program. Teaching? I set down my fork. But I always said what I thought would impress people. He interrupted. But before all that, before the suits and the corner office, I loved tutoring kids in math. Remember? I did remember. He'd volunteered at the community center all through high school. What about your image? I couldn't help asking. He smiled, a real smile, not the practiced one I'd grown to hate. I think I'm done with images. Time to be real. Speaking of real, Rosalie chimed in. We're moving out of the mansion. Found a nice place closer to here, actually. Just a few blocks away. Mom dropped her fork. Really? If that's okay, Sullivan added quickly. We thought maybe we could do this more often. Sunday dinners. Every Sunday? Mom's voice wavered. Every Sunday, he confirmed. No more missed crosswords. Later, as we shared Rosalie's apple pie, I watched Sullivan help Mom with that day's puzzle. Zoe leaned over to whisper, Still glad you orchestrated that hostile takeover? I thought about it. You know what's funny? I thought taking his company would be the victory. But this... I gestured at the scene before us. Mom laughing at Sullivan's terrible pun, Rosalie sharing family recipes, the yellow roses brightening our modest dining room. This is the real win. You know? Sullivan called out, looking up from the puzzle. 6 down is redemption. No, it's not. Mom corrected. It's beginning. We all laughed, and in that moment, I felt the last pieces of my anger melt away. The brother who'd abandoned us was gone, but in his place was someone new. Someone real. Someone trying. And maybe that's what family is. Not the perfect image we present to the world, but the messy, complicated reality of people who keep showing up, keep trying, keep loving even when it's hard. Hey, Tori, Sullivan said softly as we cleared the dishes. Thank you for not giving up on me. I handed him a plate to dry. That's what big shot CEOs do for their little brothers. He laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound I hadn't heard in 7 years. Outside, the sun was setting on another Sunday, but this time no chairs sat empty. This time, every crossword square was filled with possibility.
The first time my mother-in-law suggested I wasn't good enough for her son, she did it with a smile, holding a cup of Earl Grey tea in her perfectly manicured hands. I just want what's best for Daniel, dear, she said, her voice dripping with honey-coated venom. My name is Reagan, and I've spent the last 5 years trying to be the perfect wife, only to realize perfect isn't good enough for Christine King. When are you two planning to give me grandchildren? Christine asked during our weekly Sunday brunch, the same question she'd been asking every week for the past 3 years. I felt Daniel squeeze my hand under the table, but he remained silent, as usual. We're focusing on our careers right now, I replied, the rehearsed answer feeling stale on my tongue. The truth was messier, filled with negative pregnancy tests and tearful nights, but Christine didn't deserve to know that part of our lives. Tabitha's youngest just started walking, Christine continued, referring to her friend's daughter. Such a precious time. I do hope I get to experience that joy myself. Someday. The pause before someday felt like a knife to my heart. Daniel cleared his throat. Mum, please. Oh, I'm just making conversation, darling. Christine waved her hand dismissively. Reagan knows I mean well, don't you, dear? I forced a smile. Of course. Later that evening, as Daniel and I cleaned up after dinner at our own home, I could feel the weight of unspoken words between us. Your mother means well, I said, more to fill the silence than anything else. I know she can be intense, Daniel replied, drying a plate. But she loves us. I wanted to argue, to tell him about the way she looked at me when he wasn't watching, the subtle digs wrapped in politeness, the constant comparisons to other women. But I stayed quiet, just like I always did. Jolie called earlier, I said instead, mentioning my sister. She wants us to come over for dinner next weekend. I can't. Mum's organising something at the house. She says it's important, something about future family planning. Daniel's casual tone made my stomach drop. You should come too. Future family planning, I repeated, my hand freezing mid-wipe on a wine glass. Yeah, she wasn't very specific. Probably just wants to discuss holiday arrangements or something. I nodded, but something felt off. Christine never did anything without a precise purpose, and future family planning sounded ominously specific. That night, I couldn't sleep. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Daniel, and made my way to our home office. Opening my laptop, I pulled up Christine's social media. 20 minutes of scrolling revealed nothing unusual until I spotted a comment on one of her friend's posts. Looking forward to introducing Tabitha to the family next Sunday. She's exactly what we need. My blood ran cold. Tabitha. The name triggered a memory, Christine mentioning her at brunch, but there was more. I'd heard that name before, multiple times. Always in passing, always with that tone of admiration Christine never used when speaking about me. I grabbed my phone and typed out a quick message to Jolie. Need to talk. Emergency. Her response came immediately. Call me. I stepped onto our balcony, the night air cool against my skin. I think Daniel's mother is trying to set him up with someone else, I whispered into the phone. What? That's insane. Jolie's voice crackled through the speaker. She's invited this woman, Tabitha, to a family planning meeting, the same Tabitha she's been not so subtly mentioning for months. That manipulative I know, I cut her off, glancing back through the glass doors to make sure Daniel was still asleep. I don't know what to do. You need to tell Daniel. And say what? Hey, honey, I think your mom is trying to replace me with her friend's daughter. He'll think I'm paranoid. Then we'll prove it, Jolie said firmly. Send me everything you have. We'll figure this out. As I hung up, I heard movement inside. Through the glass, I watched Daniel turn over in his sleep, peaceful and unaware. My wonderful, loving husband, caught between his wife and his mother, never seeing the war being waged around him. I stepped back inside, my mind racing. For 5 years, I'd played the perfect daughter-in-law, swallowing every subtle insult, accepting every criticism. But something inside me had shifted. The thought of Christine sitting in her pristine living room, planning my replacement while sipping her precious Earl Grey, made my blood boil. This time would be different. This time I wouldn't just smile and nod. This time I would fight back. Holy shit, Reagan, look at this. Jolie spun her laptop around, nearly knocking over her coffee cup in the process. We were sitting in her cramped home office, surrounded by the organized chaos of her freelance photography business. The screen showed Tabitha's social media profile, young, blonde, and accomplished. She looked exactly like Christine's type, but it wasn't her perfect smile that made my stomach turn. It was her latest post. So excited to meet a special family this weekend. Sometimes life gives you unexpected second chances. Posted 3 days ago, I read aloud, my voice shaking. She tagged Christine in it. There's more, Jolie said, scrolling down. They've been commenting on each other's posts for months. Look at this one from Christine. You would make such a wonderful addition to our family. I felt sick. She's been planning this for months. That's not all. Jolie pulled up another window. Tabitha is a fertility specialist. She runs her own clinic downtown. A fertility specialist? I laughed bitterly. Of course she is. Christine probably thinks she's the answer to all her grandchildren's prayers. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Mum wants to know if you're coming Sunday. What should I say? I showed Jolie the message. Tell him you have food poisoning. Or better yet, tell him the truth. I shook my head. I need more proof first. Something concrete. Then let's get it. Jolie grabbed her car keys. Tabitha's clinic is 15 minutes away. Time for some reconnaissance. What? No, we can't just... Watch me. She was already heading for the door. Coming. 20 minutes later, we sat in Jolie's car outside Tabitha's clinic, watching people come and go. This is insane, I muttered. What's insane is your mother-in-law trying to set your husband up with another woman. Jolie pointed at the entrance. Look, there she is. Sure enough, Christine was walking into the clinic, her designer handbag swinging from her arm. My heart raced. Follow her, I said, surprising myself. We slipped into the clinic behind her, pretending to be interested in some pamphlets, while Christine spoke to the receptionist. "Mrs. King, Dr. Erickson will see you now," the receptionist called out. "Perfect timing," Christine said, standing. "I wanted to discuss Sunday's arrangement." As she disappeared down the hallway, Jolie nudged me. "See? This isn't just a casual brunch. It's an ambush." "Excuse me," a friendly voice interrupted us. We turned to find an elderly man in a cardigan watching us with knowing eyes. "I couldn't help but overhear. You're Daniel's wife, aren't you?" I tensed. "How do you—" "I'm Solomon," he said softly. "I've known Christine for years. I've watched her meddle in things she shouldn't." He glanced around before continuing. "If you're looking for answers, you might want to check your husband's medical records. Christine requested copies last week." "She what?" My voice came out sharper than intended. "She doesn't have that right," Jolie protested. Solomon smiled sadly. "Christine has ways of getting what she wants. Always has." He handed me a business card. "If you need someone to talk to, someone who understands what you're dealing with, give me a call." After he left, Jolie and I stared at each other. Why would Christine want Daniel's medical records? I wondered aloud. "Maybe she's trying to prove there's something wrong with you," Jolie suggested. "You know, to convince Daniel you're the problem." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Daniel. "Mom says she has something important to discuss about our future. Please come Sunday." I showed Jolie the message. "You need to find out what's in those records," she said firmly. "How? I can't just walk in and demand—" "No," Jolie interrupted, a gleam in her eye. "But you're his wife. You can schedule a consultation. For both of you." I stared at her. "You want me to schedule a fertility consultation? Think about it. If Christine is planning what we think she's planning, you need to know exactly what she knows. And maybe," Jolie paused, "maybe it's time to get some real answers anyway." I looked at the clinic entrance, then at my phone with Daniel's message still glowing on the screen. 5 years of trying, of disappointment, of Christine's subtle blame. 5 years of questions we'd been too afraid to ask. "Okay," I said, standing up, "let's do it." As we approached the reception desk, I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Whatever Christine was planning, whatever secrets those medical records held, I was done being in the dark. Sunday's family planning meeting wasn't going to go the way Christine expected. Not this time. Solomon's antique shop smelled like old books and furniture polish. I found him in the back, carefully restoring a Victorian music box. "I was hoping you'd come," he said, setting down his tools. "Tea?" "I scheduled a fertility consultation," I blurted out. "For tomorrow." He nodded, gesturing to a worn leather armchair. "Does Daniel know?" I told him it was a surprise, that I wanted to take the next step in our journey together. I sank into the chair. He seemed happy. And Christine? Still planning her Sunday ambush. I pulled out my phone, showing him the latest social media updates. She and Tabitha had lunch yesterday. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Solomon poured 2 cups of tea, his movements deliberate. "You know, I was there when Christine drove away Daniel's first girlfriend in college. Sweet girl named Maria. Christine decided she wasn't ambitious enough. What happened to her? Married a doctor in Boston, has 3 kids now." He smiled wryly. "Christine never forgave herself for that. Those could have been her grandchildren." "Is that why she's so obsessed with me having babies?" "Partly." Solomon handed me a cup. "But mostly, it's about control. Christine needs to be the architect of her son's happiness. Anyone who threatens that becomes the enemy. Like me. Like you." He sat across from me. "But you're different from Maria. You're fighting back." I stared into my tea. I don't even know what I'm fighting for anymore. What if there is something wrong with me? What if Christine is right? About what? Your worth as a human being? Solomon's voice sharpened. "The moment you start measuring your value by Christine's standards, she wins." "But—" "No buts." He leaned forward. "Tomorrow, you'll get answers. Real ones. But whatever those answers are, remember this. Christine's actions aren't about fertility or grandchildren. They're about power." My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Mom's being weird. Keeps talking about new beginnings and family healing." You sure you can't come Sunday? He's so blind to it all, I muttered. Men often are when it comes to their mothers. Solomon stood, walking to an old cabinet. You know what's interesting about restoration work? Sometimes to fix something valuable, you have to break it apart first. He returned with a small wooden box. This was Christine's. She pawned it years ago during a rough patch. Never came back for it. Inside was a stack of old photographs. Young Christine holding baby Daniel. Christine at Daniel's graduation. Family vacations, birthdays, holidays. She looks happy, I said, surprised. She was. Before the divorce, before she had to rebuild her life from scratch. Solomon took the box back. That's when the control issues started. She swore she'd never let anyone else make decisions for her family again. So she makes them for everyone else instead. Exactly, he paused. The consultation tomorrow. Use it. Not just for answers, but for ammunition. Ammunition? Information is power, Reagan. Right now, Christine thinks she holds all the cards. She's planned this Sunday down to the last detail. But what if you change the game entirely? Understanding dawned. You want me to crash her party? I want you to take control of your own story, he smiled. And maybe teach Christine a lesson about karma in the process. My phone buzzed again, Jolie this time. Found more dirt on Tabitha. She's been divorced twice. Both times married men with controlling mothers. Sound familiar? I showed Solomon the message. History repeating itself, he mused. Or trying to. Not this time, I said, standing up. Tomorrow I get answers. Sunday, I use them. Be careful, Solomon warned. Christine won't take this lying down. Good. I gathered my things. It's about time she stood up and faced what she's doing. As I reached the door, Solomon called out, Reagan, remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about forcing them to face their own reflection. Walking to my car, I felt lighter somehow. Tomorrow's consultation loomed ahead, but it no longer felt like a threat. Instead, it felt like ammunition, just as Solomon said. I texted Daniel, can't wait for our appointment tomorrow, love you. Then I texted Jolie, keep digging on Tabitha, I want to know everything. Finally, I saved Sunday's brunch in my calendar, adding a simple note, the day Christine learns about karma. Whatever tomorrow's results showed, whatever Christine had planned for Sunday, one thing was certain. I wasn't going to be the quiet, compliant daughter-in-law anymore. It was time to show Christine that her perfect plan had one fatal flaw. She'd underestimated me. The fertility clinic waiting room felt colder than it should. Daniel held my hand, smiling encouragingly, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. This was a great idea, honey, he said, taking charge of our future like this. If only he knew how right he was. A nurse called us in, leading us through a maze of corridors. Not Tabitha's office, thankfully. We'd been assigned to Dr. Matthews, a kind-faced woman in her 50s. So, Dr. Matthews said, reviewing our file, you've been trying for 5 years? Yes, Daniel answered. We thought maybe it was just timing, but... Have either of you been tested before? I watched Daniel's face carefully as he answered. No, I guess we were afraid of what we might find out. Dr. Matthews nodded. That's common, but knowledge is power. Shall we start with some basic tests? The next hour passed in a blur of blood draws, forms, and questions. So many questions. Had we tried tracking ovulation? Yes. Any family history of fertility issues? Not that we knew of. Any previous pregnancies? No. Finally, Dr. Matthews called us back to her office. We'll need a few days for most results, she explained, but there are some things we can determine immediately. My phone buzzed. Jolie. Christine just posted about Sunday, looking forward to a life-changing family gathering. What's the plan? I silenced my phone as Dr. Matthews pulled up some charts on her computer. Daniel, she said gently, your preliminary results show significant issues with sperm motility and count. This would make natural conception extremely difficult, if not impossible. The room went silent. I felt Daniel's hand go rigid in mine. What? He whispered. There are treatments we can discuss, Dr. Matthews continued, but I want to be clear, this isn't something that will resolve on its own. I watched my husband's face crumble, years of unspoken guilt and blame suddenly redirected. But my mother always said. He stopped himself, but I knew what he meant. Christine had always implied the problem was me, all those pointed comments about my age, my stress levels, my career focus. Reagan's preliminary results, on the other hand, show normal fertility levels, Dr. Matthews added, though I barely heard her. My mind was racing. Christine had accessed these records. She knew. She had to know. And yet she'd spent years subtly blaming me, and now she was trying to set Daniel up with a fertility specialist. "Can we get these results in writing?" I heard myself ask. "Of course." Dr. Matthews began printing documents. "I'll have the full report ready by Friday." Friday. 2 days before the Sunday brunch. Daniel was quiet as we left the clinic, his usual confidence shattered. In the parking lot, he finally spoke. "I need to process this. Maybe take a walk." "Want company?" He shook his head. I need to think." As he walked away, my phone buzzed again. "Jolie, found something big. Come over now." 20 minutes later, I sat in Jolie's office, staring at her computer screen. "Look at this," she said, pulling up Tabitha's medical license records. She lost her practice in Boston 3 years ago. Guess why? Why? She was caught falsifying fertility records for wealthy clients, changed test results to push expensive, unnecessary treatments. Jesus, I sat back. Does Christine know? She must. The records are public. Jolie pulled up more documents. But wait, it gets better. Guess who helped Tabitha set up her new practice here? My blood ran cold. Christine? Bingo. She co-signed the lease on the clinic building. They've been planning this for months. I felt sick. She knew about Daniel's infertility. She knew, and instead of supporting us, she planned, what? To have him leave me for a disgraced fertility doctor? A disgraced fertility doctor who owes her everything, Jolie corrected. Think about it. Christine would have complete control over both Daniel's new wife and any future grandchildren's conception. My phone lit up with a text from Daniel. "Mum keeps calling. I can't deal with Sunday right now. Can you tell her we can't make it?" I showed Jolie the message. "Perfect," she said. "Let her think you're not coming. Then show up with those test results and expose everything." I thought about Solomon's words about karma and reflections, about Christine's years of manipulation, about Daniel walking alone somewhere, carrying a burden that was never his to bear alone. "No," I said slowly. "I have a better idea." "Better than public humiliation?" I smiled. A plan forming. "Much better. We're going to give Christine exactly what she wants. A Sunday brunch about family planning. Just not the way she planned it." "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time for some truth-telling." I pulled out my phone. "But first I need to make a call to Solomon. We're going to need help setting the perfect stage." "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Solomon asked, arranging vintage teacups on his antique dining table. We'd chosen his house as neutral ground for what I was calling the counter brunch. "Christine's brunch starts at 11, I said, checking my phone. "Ours starts at 10. Daniel just needs to choose which one to attend." "And you think he'll choose this one?" I handed him the invitation I'd crafted. "Daniel, before you make any decisions about our future, there are truths you need to know. Come to Solomon's at 10 a.m. Sunday. All your questions will be answered. Reagan." Intriguing enough to make him curious, Solomon nodded. But vague enough to avoid tipping your hand. My phone buzzed. Jolie. "Tabitha just posted, 'Ready to meet my destiny tomorrow.'" Gag. "She's really laying it on thick," I muttered, showing Solomon the message. "Christine's influence," he said. "She always did have a flair for dramatic timing." The doorbell rang. Dr. Matthews stood outside, clutching a manila envelope. "The full test results, as requested," she said, handing them over. "Are you sure you want to do this? Medical information is usually handled more privately." "Privacy has been weaponized against us long enough," I replied. "Thank you for coming." After she left, Solomon helped me arrange the documents on the table. Daniel's results, Tabitha's disciplinary records, Christine's property documents showing her connection to the clinic. Everything laid out like a prosecutor's evidence. "Now we wait," Solomon said. "Have you heard from Daniel since the clinic?" "He's been distant, processing." I checked my messages. Christine's called him 12 times. "Damage control," Solomon mused. "She knows the test results threaten her narrative." My phone lit up. "Daniel, Mum's getting pushy about tomorrow. Says she has life-changing news. What's going on?" I showed Solomon the message before replying, "I have life-changing news too. Solomon's 10 a.m. Your choice." "Brief," Solomon approved, "but powerful." "Now comes the hard part," I said, sinking into a chair. "Waiting." The next morning dawned clear and cold. I arrived at Solomon's at 9, my stomach in knots. Jolie was already there, setting up her laptop to document everything. "Tabitha just checked in at Christine's house on social media," she reported. "Posted a picture of Christine's famous scones with the caption, 'New Beginnings.' If everything goes according to plan, she'll be choking on those scones," I muttered. At 9:45, Solomon's antique clock ticked loudly in the silence. My phone buzzed. "Christine. Daniel tells me you've invited him to some sort of meeting. Whatever you're planning, don't embarrass yourself further." I showed Solomon and Jolie the message. "She's scared," Solomon said. "She knows she's losing control." 9:50. No word from Daniel. 9:55. Jolie squeezed my hand. "He'll come." 9:58. A car door slammed outside. "He's here," Solomon said, peeking through the curtains. "And he's not alone." My heart stopped. "Christine?" "No." Solomon smiled. "Dr. Matthews. I might have suggested she drop by." 10. The doorbell rang. Daniel stood on the porch, looking tired but determined. Dr. Matthews stood behind him. "I ran into Dr. Matthews in the parking lot," he said. "She mentioned you'd asked her to come." "Please come in," Solomon said. "We have a lot to discuss." Daniel's eyes widened as he took in the documents spread across the table. "What is all this?" "The truth," I said simply. "About everything." "Your mother's brunch starts in an hour," Dr. Matthews added. "But first, I think you need to see what she's been hiding." Daniel picked up the first document, his complete fertility results. Then Tabitha's disciplinary records. His hands shook as he read. "Mom, she knew," he whispered, "all this time." "Keep reading," Jolie encouraged, pulling up more evidence on her laptop. As Daniel absorbed each new piece of information, I watched the realization dawn in his eyes. Years of manipulation, carefully documented and laid bare. "There's more," I said softly. "But first, you need to decide. Do you want to know everything? Or do you want to go to your mother's brunch and hear her version?" Daniel looked at his watch, then at the documents, then at me. In that moment, I saw the weight of his choice, the comfortable lie versus the painful truth. Finally, he pulled out his phone and typed a quick message. We all heard the whoosh of the text sending. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That I won't be coming to brunch," he said, his voice stronger than I'd heard it in days. "I told her I'm exactly where I need to be." Solomon quietly began pouring tea. "Then let's begin, shall we? We have quite a story to tell." "Daniel isn't coming." Christine's voice echoed through her phone's speaker as Jolie's laptop recorded everything. Something about being with Reagan. Should we proceed anyway? Tabitha's uncertainty was clear even through the speakerphone. "Absolutely. He'll come around once he sees what he's missing." I checked my watch. 11:15. Daniel sat beside me, his jaw clenched as we listened to his mother plot. "They've been trying for 5 years, Christine continued. "Once he realizes you can give him what she can't—" "Enough," Daniel snapped, though they couldn't hear him. His hands were shaking as he held the fertility report. Solomon's doorbell rang, right on schedule. "That'll be Maria," Solomon said, standing. "Maria?" Daniel's head snapped up. "My ex-girlfriend Maria?" "Who your mother drove away 15 years ago," I explained. Solomon thought we should hear her story too. Maria looked exactly like her social media photos, successful, confident, and very pregnant with her fourth child. Her eyes widened when she saw Daniel. "I didn't believe Solomon when he called," she said, sitting down, "but after what he told me about Christine's latest scheme—" "Tell him," Solomon encouraged. "Tell him what really happened senior year of college." Maria took a deep breath. "Your mother told me you were getting back together with your high school girlfriend. Said you were just too nice to tell me yourself." "What?" Daniel's face went pale. "But I never—" "Meanwhile," Maria continued, "she told Daniel I was accepting a job across the country," Solomon added. "Said Maria was too ambitious for family life." "Classic Christine," Jolie muttered, still monitoring her laptop. "Guys, Tabitha just posted a photo from Christine's house. Caption says, 'Ready to meet my future family.'" Daniel's phone buzzed again. Christine. "Darling, please come home. Tabitha is such a lovely girl, and she understands our family values." "Family values," Daniel repeated bitterly. "Like lying, manipulation." Dr. Matthews cleared her throat. "There's something else you should know. The treatment plan Tabitha was suggesting for you both. It's nearly identical to the fraudulent protocol she used in Boston. Unnecessary procedures," I added. "Expensive ones. All while knowing the real diagnosis." Daniel stood abruptly, pacing Solomon's living room. "I need to confront her." "Wait," I said, pulling out my phone. "Look at this first." I showed him Christine's social media post from that morning. "Today, we welcome a new chapter in our family's story. Some doors must close for better ones to open." "She's already telling people, isn't she?" Daniel's voice was quiet. "That's why all these family friends are suddenly showing up at her house." Jolie nodded, turning her laptop to show the growing number of check-ins at Christine's address. "She's gathered quite the audience." "Perfect," I said, standing. "That's exactly what we need." "What do you mean?" Daniel asked. "Your mother wants an audience for her grand revelation." I gathered the documents into my bag. "Let's give her one, but we'll be the ones doing the revealing." "Reagan," Daniel started. "She needs to face what she's done," Maria interjected. "Not just to you and Reagan, but to everyone she's manipulated over the years." "I agree," Solomon said. "Sometimes public consequences are the only way to break patterns of behavior." Daniel looked at each of us, then at his phone as another message from Christine came through. "Son, please, this is about our family's future." "You're right," he said finally. "She needs to face this, all of it." "Then let's go," I said, checking the time. "They should be just sitting down to brunch." As we gathered our things, Jolie's laptop pinged with another update. "Oh, this is rich," she said. "Tabitha just posted, 'Some people are meant to be mothers. Others should accept their limitations.'" Daniel's face hardened. "Let's go." We filed out to our cars, a strange procession. Me, Daniel, Maria, Dr. Matthews, Solomon, and Jolie with her laptop full of evidence. As we drove toward Christine's house, my phone lit up one last time. "Christine, whatever you're planning, remember, I always win." I showed it to Daniel, who was driving. "Not this time, Mom," he muttered. "Not this time." As we pulled up to Christine's perfectly manicured house, we could see the gathering through the large bay windows. Christine at the head of the table, Tabitha at her right hand, surrounded by family friends and relatives. "Ready?" I asked Daniel. He took my hand, squeezing it firmly. "Ready." As we walked toward the front door, I thought about Solomon's words about karma and reflections. Christine wanted a public spectacle about family. She was about to get one, just not the one she planned. The sound of clinking glasses and polite laughter stopped abruptly when we walked into Christine's dining room. 20 faces turned to stare at our unlikely group. "Daniel," Christine stood, her perfect hostess smile faltering. "And Reagan, I thought you weren't—" Her voice died as she noticed the others. "Maria? Solomon? What is the meaning of this?" "Please, continue your brunch," I said, my voice steady. "We wouldn't want to interrupt your special announcement." Tabitha shifted uncomfortably in her seat beside Christine. Her Instagram-perfect smile looked considerably less confident in person. "Daniel," Christine tried again, "whatever Reagan has told you—" "Actually, Mom," Daniel cut in. "Why don't you tell everyone why we're really here today? About your plans for my future?" Christine's eyes darted around the room. I simply wanted to introduce Tabitha to the family. She's a wonderful fertility specialist who lost her medical license in Boston for fraud," Dr. Matthews interrupted, stepping forward. "And who, thanks to your financial backing, opened a new practice here with the intention of implementing the same fraudulent treatments." Gasps rippled through the room. Tabitha's face went white. "That's absurd," Christine sputtered. "I would never—" "Really?" I pulled out the property documents. "These lease agreements say otherwise. Shall I pass them around?" An elderly aunt reached for the papers. "Let me see those." "This is ridiculous," Christine snapped. "Daniel needs someone who can give him a family. Reagan has failed." "I'm infertile, Mom." Daniel's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Me, not Reagan. You've had access to my medical records for months. You knew." The silence was deafening. Christine's perfect mask cracked. I only wanted to control everything," Maria stepped forward. "Just like you did 15 years ago when you lied to both Daniel and me to break us up." More murmurs from the gathered family. Christine's cousin stood up. "Is that true, Christine? Like what you did with Thomas's wife?" "And Sarah's husband," another relative added. "Enough." Christine slammed her hand on the table. "Everything I've done has been for this family's best interests." "No," Solomon said quietly. "Everything you've done has been for control. And look what it's cost you." Jolie turned her laptop around, displaying the social media trail of Christine's manipulation. Years of subtle digs, orchestrated meetings, carefully crafted lies. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Daniel asked, his voice breaking. "That I wouldn't eventually learn what you've been doing to Reagan? To our marriage?" "I was protecting you," Christine insisted. "Reagan can't give you children." "But Tabitha could." I stepped forward. "With her history of medical fraud? Or was that the point? To have a daughter-in-law who would be completely under your control, dependent on your silence about her past?" Tabitha stood abruptly. "I should go." "Sit down," Christine hissed. "This isn't over," I finished for her. "You're right, because now everyone knows about the lies, the manipulation, the fraud. How many families have you torn apart, Christine? How many lives have you tried to control?" The room erupted in overlapping voices as relatives began sharing their own stories of Christine's interference. Years of hidden resentment bubbled to the surface. "I did it all for love," Christine said, but her voice was small now. "For family." "No, Mom," Daniel said softly. "You did it for yourself, and it ends today." He turned to the gathered family members. "I'm sorry for what she's done to all of you, but today, we're taking our lives back." Christine sank into her chair, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Tabitha had already slipped out during the chaos. "Daniel, please," Christine whispered. "You're my only son." "And I'll always be your son," he replied, "but not your puppet. Not anymore." He took my hand. "Reagan is my wife, my family, and if we never have children, that's something we'll face together, without your interference." The room had gone quiet again, but this time it was different. The silence felt like healing, like truth finally breaking through years of carefully maintained lies. "We're leaving now," Daniel announced. "Anyone who wants to know the full truth, Solomon has copies of everything." As we turned to go, I heard Christine call out one last time. "Reagan, wait!" I paused at the doorway, looking back at the woman who had tried so hard to destroy me. She seemed smaller somehow, older, stripped of her power. "You'll never win," she said, but it sounded more like a question than a statement. I smiled, thinking of Solomon's words about karma and reflections. I already have, Christine. The truth won, and that's all that matters. We walked out into the sunlight, leaving Christine alone with the consequences of her actions, surrounded by the wreckage of her carefully constructed lies. The autumn breeze rustled through Solomon's garden as I helped him arrange chairs for his weekly neighborhood tea gathering. These had become a regular thing since the confrontation at Christine's house, a gentle rebellion against her exclusive brunches. "Look who finally decided to join us," Solomon nodded toward the garden gate. Christine stood there looking smaller in her casual clothes, holding a simple homemade cake instead of her usual elaborate pastries. "I brought dessert," she said quietly, "if that's all right." Solomon smiled. "There's always room for one more." I watched as she placed her cake on the table, her hands trembling slightly. This was the first time I'd seen her since that day, though Daniel had been meeting with her for weekly counseling sessions. "Reagan," she acknowledged me, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. "I wasn't sure you'd be here." "I help Solomon set up every week," I replied. "You'd know that if you'd accepted his previous invitations." She nodded, running her hand along one of the mismatched vintage teacups. "These are beautiful. Not perfect, but beautiful in their own way." "That's the point," Solomon said, setting down the last chair. "Perfect is overrated." The garden gradually filled with an eclectic mix of neighbours, including Maria, who now lived a few streets over. She'd moved back after her husband got a position at the local hospital. "Christine," Maria said, surprisingly warm, "I saved you a seat." I watched them talk quietly, years of hurt slowly giving way to cautious healing. Daniel arrived last, straight from work, his face lighting up when he saw his mother there. "Mom, you came." "I'm trying," she said simply. As Solomon served tea in his wonderfully mismatched cups, I noticed how different this felt from Christine's carefully orchestrated gatherings. Children played on the lawn, cups occasionally spilled, and nobody seemed to care about social status or family connections. "I've been thinking," Christine said suddenly, loud enough for nearby conversations to pause. "About what you said that day, Reagan, about winning." I set down my teacup. "And you were right. But not in the way I thought." She looked around the garden. "This is winning. This messy, imperfect happiness." "Mom," Daniel started, but she held up her hand. "Let me finish. I spent so many years trying to control everything, to make everything perfect. I missed out on real relationships, real love." She turned to me. "I missed out on having a real daughter-in-law." "Christine, no, please, I need to say this." She took a deep breath. "I'm sorry for everything. The manipulation, the lies, the hurt I caused. I can't take it back, but I can try to do better." Solomon refilled her teacup. "Trying is all any of us can do." "Actually," Daniel said, squeezing my hand, "we have something to share." All eyes turned to us. "We've been approved for adoption," I said. "A baby girl. Her birth mother chose us last week." Christine's teacup clattered against its saucer. "You're going to be parents?" "If you'd like," I said carefully, "you could be a grandmother, a real one. No manipulation, no control, just love." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'd like that. Very much. But," Daniel added firmly, "things have to be different." "I know," Christine whispered. "I know." Maria raised her teacup. "To new beginnings, real ones this time." As everyone toasted, I felt Daniel's arm around my waist, solid and secure. Across the garden, Jolie was showing Solomon how to use social media on his phone, probably to share photos of his tea gatherings. Christine was quietly asking Maria about her children, genuine interest replacing her usual competitive edge. "You know," Solomon said, joining us with a fresh pot of tea, "sometimes the best families are the ones we build ourselves, flaws and all." "Speaking of building," Christine said hesitantly, "I've been thinking of turning my house into a community centre for families dealing with infertility, adoption, all the things I used to judge. Maybe help other mothers learn from my mistakes." "That's actually a wonderful idea," I said, surprised. "Would you help?" she asked. "Both of you?" "I don't trust myself to do it alone." Daniel and I exchanged looks. "We'll think about it," he said. As the afternoon light softened, I watched Christine join a group of children admiring Solomon's koi pond, her perfect posture relaxing as she knelt down to their level. She looked different somehow. Lighter, more real. "Ready to go home?" Daniel asked softly. I looked around the garden one last time, at Solomon's mismatched teacups, at Christine's imperfect but heartfelt cake, at this wonderfully messy gathering of healing hearts. "Actually," I said, "I think we are home. Because sometimes winning isn't about defeating your enemies. Sometimes it's about helping them find their way back to humanity, back to love. And sometimes the most perfect endings are the ones that remain beautifully, wonderfully imperfect."
I stood frozen in the church hallway, staring at my phone in disbelief. The email from the travel agency confirmed what I'd feared. Our honeymoon reservations had been canceled. Not rescheduled, not modified, canceled. And I knew exactly who was responsible. "Juliana?" My best friend Avery's voice snapped me back to reality. "The photographer needs you for the family photos. Your mother-in-law is getting impatient." Of course she was. Vanessa was always impatient when things weren't going exactly her way. I'm Juliana, and this was supposed to be my wedding day. Instead, it had become the Vanessa show, starring my mother-in-law as the commander-in-chief of everything from the flower arrangements to the seating chart. "I'll be right there," I managed, quickly wiping away a tear before it could ruin my makeup. The makeup that Vanessa had insisted I get done by her preferred artist, not the one I'd originally booked. Walking into the church's main hall, I saw her holding court among the guests, wearing a cream-colored dress that was suspiciously close to white. "There you are, darling," she called out, her voice dripping with honey-coated venom. "We simply must get these photos done before the light changes." Aaron, my almost husband, shot me an apologetic look. He'd been doing that a lot lately. "Sorry," he whispered as I took my place beside him. "You know how she gets." "Ladies, please." The photographer clapped his hands. "Mother of the groom, if you could stand just here." "Oh no, I think I should be next to Aaron," Vanessa interrupted. "After all, this is a family photo, and we want to show our unity." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Unity. Right. Like when she'd unified my carefully chosen blue and silver color scheme into her preferred burgundy and gold, or when she'd unified the guest list by adding 30 of her bridge club friends I'd never met. "Actually," I heard myself say, "I'd like a photo with just Aaron and me first." The silence that followed was deafening. "Juliana, dear." Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. "This is a family occasion. We do things as a family." "It's our wedding," I countered, feeling Aaron's hand squeeze mine supportively. "Mom," Aaron started, but Vanessa was already positioning herself between us. Now, let's not make a scene," she said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "We want these photos to be perfect, for the family album." The family album. The same excuse she'd used when changing my bouquet last minute, when rearranging the reception seating, when vetoing the father-daughter dance tribute I'd planned to honor my late dad. "This is for family," she'd said each time, as if I wasn't family enough. The photographer snapped away as Vanessa directed the show, and I stood there smiling mechanically, thinking about that canceled honeymoon email. The special trip my father had secretly saved for, revealed to me through a letter after his passing. His final gift, meant to make up for all the family vacations we couldn't afford when I was growing up. "Perfect," Vanessa declared after what felt like hours. "Now, about the reception entrance." "Excuse me," I muttered, needing air. I hurried toward the side door, but not before hearing Vanessa's stage whisper to her friend. "Poor thing, so emotional. But what can you expect? No mother to guide her through this important day. Thank goodness I'm here to handle things properly." I found myself in the church garden, gasping for breath. Avery appeared moments later, holding my phone. "You left this inside," she said softly. "Want to tell me what's really going on?" I showed her the email. Her eyes widened as she read. "She canceled your honeymoon? Can she even do that?" "Apparently, she called pretending to be me, said it was a family emergency." I laughed bitterly. "The travel agent even sent a note hoping everything was okay with my mother-in-law's health." "That witch," Avery breathed. "What are you going to do?" I looked back at the church, where Vanessa was undoubtedly reorganizing something else about my wedding. My wedding, which hadn't felt like mine since the moment I'd said yes to her son. I don't know, I admitted. But I do know one thing. This isn't over. She wants to play family games? Fine. But she has no idea who she's really dealing with. The church bells began to ring, signaling it was time for the ceremony. As I straightened my dress, the one Vanessa had helped me choose, I felt something shift inside me. This woman had taken over my wedding, canceled my honeymoon, and tried to erase every trace of my own family from this day. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated exactly how far I'd go to take back what was mine. 3 days after the wedding, I sat in my childhood home's attic, surrounded by dusty boxes and memories. The house was being sold next month, but I needed to find something first, the rest of my father's letter about the honeymoon. Your dad was always so organized, Avery said, carefully opening another box. It has to be here somewhere. I pulled out an old photo album and a loose picture fell to the floor. It was me at 6 years old, sitting on my father's shoulders at the beach, both of us beaming at the camera. My mother had taken this photo during our only family vacation, a weekend getaway we'd saved up for all year. Found something. Avery's voice pulled me back. She held up a manila envelope with, "For Juliana's wedding," written in my father's familiar handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a USB drive, some documents, and the complete letter I'd only partially read before the wedding chaos began. "Read it out loud," Avery urged, scooting closer. "My dearest Julie," I began, my voice catching. "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't be there to walk you down the aisle, but I made sure to leave you something special." The letter detailed how he'd been saving for years, setting aside money from extra jobs and overtime shifts. He'd worked with his old friend Ezekiel, a family lawyer, to set up a special account for my honeymoon fund. "Wait," I said, grabbing my phone. "Ezekiel might still have access to this account." I dialed his number, praying he still worked at the same firm. "Juliana?" His warm voice answered. "I was wondering when you'd call." "You knew about the honeymoon fund?" "Your father made me promise to wait until you contacted me. He wanted it to be a surprise, but he also wanted to make sure no one could interfere with his gift to you." I thought of Vanessa's smug face when she'd announced at the reception that the honeymoon had been regrettably canceled due to family obligations. "Can you help me access it?" I asked. "Come to my office tomorrow at 10. Bring your ID and marriage certificate. And Juliana, your father was very specific about this being your money, no one else's." After hanging up, I plugged the USB drive into my laptop. It contained videos, dozens of them. My father had recorded messages for me over the years. I clicked on one dated just months before he passed away. Julie Bean, his familiar nickname for me, made my eyes water. "I know I won't be there to protect you anymore, but remember what your mother always said. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. You've got her spirit in you, sweetheart. Don't let anyone dim your light." Avery squeezed my hand as we watched more videos. In each one, my father talked about his dreams for me, his pride in my achievements, and most importantly, his hope that I'd find the strength to stand up for myself. "Your mom would have never let anyone push you around like this," Avery said softly. "And neither would your dad." She was right. My mother had been the kindest person I knew, but she was also fiercely protective of our family. Before cancer took her, she'd made me promise to never let anyone make me feel small. My phone buzzed, a text from Vanessa. "Dinner at our house tomorrow night, family meeting to discuss the holiday arrangements. Non-negotiable." "Non-negotiable," I repeated, a plan forming in my mind. "We'll see about that." I called Aaron, who was at work. "Hey, can you meet me at Ezekiel's office tomorrow at 10? Your dad's lawyer? Is everything okay?" "It will be, but I need you to trust me on this." There was a pause. "Is this about what Mom did with the honeymoon?" "Among other things. Aaron, I love you, but I can't keep living like this. Your mother needs to understand that I'm not her puppet." "I know," he sighed, "and I'm sorry I haven't stood up to her more. What do you need me to do?" "Just be there tomorrow, and maybe start thinking about where you'd like to go on our honeymoon." After hanging up, I found one last video from my father, dated just weeks before he died. "Julie Bean, remember that time you stood up to those bullies in middle school? You didn't fight them. You outsmarted them. That's my girl. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above. But rising above doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It means being clever, being strong, and most importantly, being true to yourself. I closed the laptop, my resolve strengthening. Avery, I need your help with something else. How good are you at keeping secrets? She grinned. Better than your mother-in-law is at minding her own business. Tomorrow would be the first step in taking back control of my life. Vanessa wanted to play family politics? Fine. But she was about to learn that she wasn't the only one who could play that game. Ezekiel's office felt smaller than I remembered, especially with Aaron nervously shifting beside me. The morning light filtered through Venetian blinds, casting striped shadows across the mahogany desk where my father's lawyer spread out several documents. Your father was quite thorough, Ezekiel said, sliding a folder toward me. The honeymoon fund contains exactly $15,000, plus 5 years of accumulated interest. Aaron's eyes widened. That's incredible. And completely separate from any joint accounts or family finances, Ezekiel added pointedly. The money is solely in Juliana's name. I pulled out my phone and opened the travel agency's website. Can we rebook everything right now? Actually, Aaron interrupted, I have a better idea. He turned to me, taking my hand. What if we plan something completely different? Something Mom doesn't know about and can't interfere with? A slow smile spread across my face. I'm listening. My friend runs a boutique travel agency. We could book through him, use a different email, keep everything under wraps until we're actually gone. Ezekiel nodded approvingly. Smart thinking. Your mother-in-law wouldn't be able to cancel what she doesn't know exists. Just then, my phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, Vanessa was calling. I declined the call, but seconds later, a text appeared. Don't forget dinner tonight. Wearing that lovely burgundy dress I bought you would be appropriate. She's still trying to control everything, I muttered. Not for long, Aaron said firmly. I've been thinking about what you said, and you're right. This has to stop. After leaving Ezekiel's office, we met Avery at a cafe far from Vanessa's usual haunts. Aaron's travel agent friend, Marcus, joined us via video call. Bali, Marcus suggested, scrolling through options. Or maybe the Maldives. Both destinations have excellent privacy policies for their luxury resorts. The Maldives, I decided. It's perfect. Completely different from the European tour Vanessa canceled. And significantly more expensive, Avery added with a grin. Good thing you've got that fund. We spent the next hour booking everything under Aaron's work email, using points from his corporate card to further mask the transactions. By the time we finished, our secret honeymoon was set for 3 weeks away. Now, Avery said, pulling out her notebook, about tonight's dinner. I have an idea about that too, I said, feeling more confident than I had in weeks. But I need to make a quick stop first. An hour later, I walked into a small boutique where Deborah, our original wedding planner, worked. She looked up in surprise when I entered. Juliana, I'm so sorry about everything that happened with the wedding. Your mother-in-law was quite persuasive. That's one word for it, I replied. Listen, I need your help with something, and this time, we're not letting Vanessa anywhere near it. By the time I arrived at Vanessa's house that evening, I was ready. I'd worn a deep blue dress instead of the burgundy one she'd chosen, a small act of defiance that didn't go unnoticed. Oh, darling, Vanessa said, air kissing my cheek. That dress is interesting, though the one I bought would have been more appropriate for a family dinner. I think she looks beautiful, Aaron said, placing his hand on my lower back. Vanessa's smile tightened. Well, shall we discuss the holiday arrangements? I've already made some preliminary bookings for Christmas. Actually, I interrupted, Aaron and I have an announcement first. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. Inside was a donation receipt for $5,000 to the local children's hospital, in her name. What's this? She asked, confusion crossing her face. We donated the money we saved from canceling the honeymoon, I explained sweetly. Since you were so concerned about family obligations, we thought you'd be proud to have this charitable contribution in your name. The color drained from her face. I don't understand. It's simple, Mom, Aaron said. We're done letting you control everything. From now on, Juliana and I make our own decisions. But I only want what's best for the family. No, I said firmly, channeling my mother's strength. You want what's best for your image. There's a difference. I stood up, smoothing my deliberately chosen blue dress. Now, if you'll excuse us, we need to head home. We have some planning to do for our future, our way. As we left, I sent a quick text to Avery. Phase 1 complete. Start spreading the word about the canceled honeymoon donation. Let's see how Vanessa handles being known as the generous mother-in-law who inspired such charitable giving. Erin squeezed my hand as we drove away. You know she's going to be furious when she realizes what we've done. I smiled, thinking of our secret Maldives reservation. Oh, she hasn't realized anything yet. This is just the beginning. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in stealth planning. Every lunch break, every evening after work, Erin and I methodically prepared for our secret getaway. We bought new swimsuits from stores Vanessa would never visit, ordered reef-safe sunscreen from small online retailers, and had everything delivered to Avery's apartment. Your mother-in-law's been calling me, Deborah said during our secret meeting at a small coffee shop. She's trying to arrange a surprise anniversary party for you two next month. I nearly choked on my latte. We'll be in the Maldives then. Exactly. Deborah's eyes twinkled. And I'm having so much fun giving her the runaround about venue availability. My phone buzzed. Another text from Vanessa. Darling, lunch tomorrow? We need to discuss some family matters. She's getting suspicious, I told Deborah. She's been trying to schedule family lunches almost every day. Keep her busy with small decisions, Deborah advised. It's an old planner's trick. Give her tiny things to control, and she won't see the big picture. Following her advice, I called Vanessa. About lunch tomorrow. Could you help me choose new curtains for the living room instead? Your taste is so impeccable. Oh, I could hear the pleasure in her voice. Of course, darling. I know just the place. That evening, Erin and I were packing our secret suitcases at Avery's when my phone rang again. This time it was Marcus, the travel agent. We have a situation, he said. Someone's been calling around local travel agencies, asking about bookings under your names. My heart stopped. What? Don't worry, you're not in our system under either of your names, but thought you should know. After hanging up, I paced Avery's living room. She's getting closer. Then we need to throw her off completely, Avery said. She grabbed her laptop and pulled up a travel website. Watch this. She booked a fully refundable trip to Vancouver for the same dates as our Maldives vacation using my email address. Now we wait, she said, grinning. Sure enough, within hours, I received a confirmation email. I forwarded it to Vanessa with a simple message, looking forward to some quiet time for reflection. The next day, I met Vanessa at an upscale home decor store. She was already examining fabric swatches when I arrived. Burgundy would warm up your living room beautifully, she said, not looking up. I was thinking ocean blue, actually, to match our Vancouver photos when we get back. Her head snapped up. Vancouver? Just a little solo trip. Time to clear my head after everything. Alone? But what about Erin? What about family? Erin understands I need space, especially after the honeymoon situation. Vanessa's face tightened. I only canceled that trip because it was a family matter, I interrupted sweetly. Yes, you mentioned that. Several times. That evening, I received a series of texts from various family members, all expressing concern about my emotional state and my selfish decision to travel alone. She's rallying the troops, Erin said, reading over my shoulder. Perfect. I showed him my phone screen. Avery's already canceled the Vancouver booking. Your mom's probably trying to track it down right now to cancel it herself. You're kind of scary sometimes, he said, but he was smiling. I learned from the best. The next morning, I found a note slipped under our apartment door. The handwriting was Vanessa's. Darling, family doesn't keep secrets. Remember that. Is that a threat? Erin asked, reading the note. No, I said, tucking it into my purse. It's desperation. Later that day, I met with Ezekiel again, showing him the note. Document everything, he advised. Every text, every call, every note, just in case. You think she'd actually try something? I think people who are used to control become unpredictable when they lose it. On my way home, I stopped by my childhood house one last time. The sale was almost complete, but I needed one more thing. In my old bedroom closet, I found what I was looking for, my mother's old journal. Inside, she'd written about her own struggles with Vanessa years ago, when she'd first started dating my father. The last entry before she got sick read, "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is smile in the face of those who want to see you break." My phone buzzed again. Vanessa had sent a group text to the entire family. Concerned about our dear Juliana, please join us for a family intervention dinner this Saturday. I showed it to Aaron when I got home. He immediately started typing a response, but I stopped him. Wait, I said. Let's give her exactly what she wants. A family dinner where everything comes out in the open. You sure? I thought of our packed suitcases at Avery's, our secret reservations, and the look on Vanessa's face when she realized she'd lost control. Trust me, I said. Saturday's dinner is going to be unforgettable. Saturday evening arrived with the weight of an approaching storm. As Aaron and I pulled up to Vanessa's house, I counted 6 other cars parked outside. She really did invite the whole family, Aaron muttered. Good, I replied, checking my purse one last time. My mother's journal was there, along with a few other carefully chosen items. The more witnesses, the better. Vanessa opened the door before we could knock, wearing a concerned expression that wouldn't have looked out of place on a daytime soap opera. Oh, darling, we're all so worried about you. The living room was packed with Aaron's relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, all wearing matching expressions of manufactured concern. Aunt Patricia immediately rushed over to hug me. We're here to help, dear, she said, patting my cheek. Vanessa told us everything. Did she? I asked, looking directly at my mother-in-law. What exactly did she tell you? About your emotional instability, Uncle Robert chimed in. The secret trips, the erratic behavior. The charitable donation in my name, Vanessa added, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, clearly a cry for help. I sat down on the sofa, Aaron's hand supportively on my shoulder. You're right, we should talk about everything, including this. I pulled out my phone and played a voicemail from the travel agency. Mrs. Sanders, we're calling to confirm that you authorized the cancellation of your daughter-in-law's honeymoon booking. We'll need written confirmation. The room fell silent. That's not, Vanessa started. And these, I continued, pulling out a stack of screenshots. Every email where you changed our wedding vendors without consulting us. Every message where you overrode our decisions. All documented. Aunt Patricia's concerned expression wavered. Vanessa, you said the honeymoon was canceled because Juliana was having second thoughts. She was protecting the family, Uncle Robert defended, but he didn't sound as confident anymore. No, Aaron spoke up, his voice firm. She was controlling the family. There's a difference. I opened my mother's journal to a marked page. Actually, this isn't new behavior. 28 years ago, my mother wrote about how Vanessa tried to break up her relationship with my father. She tried to cancel their wedding venue, too. Vanessa's face went pale. That's ancient history, is it? Because you're still doing the same things, trying to control everyone, manipulating situations, turning family members against each other. Everything I do is for this family, Vanessa snapped, her composed facade cracking. Like canceling the honeymoon my dead father saved up for? My voice was steady, even as tears threatened. Was that for the family? The room erupted in whispers. Aunt Patricia covered her mouth in shock. I didn't know it was from your father, Vanessa stammered. Would it have mattered if you did? Before she could answer, my phone buzzed. I checked it. A text from Avery. Everything's set. Operation Maldives is go. You know what the saddest part is? I stood up, addressing the whole room. You're so focused on controlling everything that you don't realize how much you're pushing people away. Aaron and I wanted to share our lives with you, but you turned every moment into a power play. That's not true, Vanessa protested. Tell them, Aaron. But Aaron shook his head. No, Mom. Juliana's right. This has to stop. We're leaving now, I announced. And when we get back, things will be different. Back? Back from where? Vanessa demanded. I walked to the door, then turned back with a smile my mother would have been proud of. That's the thing about family, Vanessa. They don't keep secrets, remember? So I'm sure you'll figure it out. As we drove away, Aaron's phone started blowing up with messages from his relatives. They're all asking what really happened with the wedding, he said. Mom's story is falling apart. Good, I replied. Let the truth come out. We won't be here to deal with the fallout anyway. 3 days until paradise. Aaron grinned. Back home, I found one final note slipped under our door. But this time it wasn't from Vanessa. It was from Aunt Patricia. Your mother was one of the kindest people I knew. She would be proud of you for standing up for yourself. P.S. Don't worry about Vanessa. We'll handle her while you're gone. Enjoy the Maldives. Overheard her frantically calling travel agencies earlier. Your secret's safe with me. I showed the note to Aaron, who laughed. Mom's going to lose it when she realizes her own sister is on our side. She's going to lose it anyway when she discovers we're gone, I said. But for once, there's nothing she can do about it. We spent the rest of the evening packing our official suitcases, the ones we'd leave behind as decoys while we escaped to our real paradise. In 3 days, we'd be on a plane to the Maldives, and Vanessa would finally learn what it felt like to not be in control. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. The morning of our escape, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Vanessa and one very interesting text from Deborah. She's planning a surprise send-off party for your Vancouver trip tonight. Should we let the plan proceed? Perfect timing, I told Aaron, showing him the message. She's playing right into our hands. We spent the morning making a show of packing our decoy suitcases with winter clothes for Vancouver. Right on schedule, Vanessa appeared at our door, practically buzzing with barely contained energy. Darling, you simply must come to dinner tonight before your trip. The whole family wants to properly say goodbye. I don't know. I pretended to hesitate. I insist, she said, that familiar, commanding tone creeping in. We've reserved the private room at La Maison. Aaron squeezed my hand. We'll be there, Mom. After she left, we sprang into action. While Aaron picked up our real luggage from Avery's, I met with Deborah one last time. Everything's set at the restaurant, she confirmed. I've arranged for the staff to play along. They'll bring out your surprise at exactly 8:15. And the photographer? Ready and waiting. Trust me, you'll want pictures of her face when she realizes what's happening. That evening, we arrived at La Maison to find the entire family already seated. Vanessa had outdone herself, flowers everywhere, a Bon Voyage banner, and what looked like wrapped presents on a side table. Vancouver is lovely this time of year, Aunt Patricia said with a wink as she hugged me. Vanessa clinked her glass, commanding attention. Before we begin, I'd like to say something. She stood, adjusting her perfectly pressed blazer. When I first heard about this solo trip, I was concerned. But now I realize this is exactly what our dear Juliana needs. Time to reflect, to understand the importance of family. I checked my watch. 8:10. In fact, Vanessa continued, I've taken the liberty of arranging some activities for you in Vancouver. My friend runs a wonderful family counseling center there. 8:13. Because family is everything, and sometimes we need guidance to see that clearly. 8:14. Which is why I've also booked myself a ticket to join you next week. Actually, I interrupted, standing up as the restaurant staff began wheeling in a large covered presentation board. I have an announcement of my own. Vanessa's smile froze. What's this? A surprise, Aaron said, joining me. For everyone. The staff removed the cover, revealing a massive photo collage. Front and center was a picture of our overwater bungalow in the Maldives, surrounded by our itinerary, booking confirmations, and a countdown clock reading, takeoff in 10 hours. The room erupted in gasps and exclamations. Vanessa's face went from confusion to shock to fury in rapid succession. But Vancouver, she sputtered, was never real, I finished for her, just like your concern for my emotional well-being. You lied to the family, she accused, trying to regain control of the narrative. No, Vanessa, we protected our privacy from someone who repeatedly violated it. I turned to address the room. Our flight leaves tomorrow morning. We'll be gone for 2 weeks, enjoying the honeymoon my father planned for us before he died. The honeymoon that was canceled without our consent. Uncle Robert let out a low whistle. Well played, kids. You can't do this. Vanessa stood so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. I already told everyone about Vancouver. I made arrangements. Like you made arrangements to cancel our original honeymoon? Aaron asked quietly. Mom, this has to stop. Aunt Patricia started clapping, and soon the whole room joined in, except Vanessa, who looked like she'd swallowed something sour. A toast, Uncle Robert called out, raising his glass. To the happy couple. May your honeymoon be as brilliant as this masterful escape plan. As everyone clinked glasses, Vanessa grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But before leaving, she turned back with fire in her eyes. This isn't over, she hissed. Actually, it is, I replied calmly. Check your phone. She pulled it out, and I watched as her eyes widened at the notification. I just tagged her in a social media post. A photo of the Children's Hospital donation receipt, praising her generous spirit in turning our canceled honeymoon funds into a charitable contribution. You wouldn't dare. I already did. The post is going viral in our community as we speak. Congratulations, Vanessa. You're now known as the most charitable mother-in-law in town. She fled the restaurant, leaving behind a room full of laughing relatives and one very satisfied daughter-in-law. "Ready for paradise?" Aaron whispered in my ear. I looked around at our supportive family members, all raising their glasses in celebration of our rebellion. "More than ready," I replied. "Let's show your mother what real family loyalty looks like." The Maldives were everything we dreamed of and more. For 12 blissful days, we lived in paradise. No drama, no manipulation, no Vanessa. Just crystal clear waters, white sand beaches, and blessed silence from our phones, which we'd left on airplane mode, until day 13. "You need to see this," Aaron said, his face illuminated by his phone screen as we lay in our beachfront hammock. He'd briefly connected to the resort's Wi-Fi to check our flight details. I peered at his screen. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages, and one very interesting email from Aunt Patricia with the subject line, "Your mother-in-law's meltdown gone viral." "Should we look?" I asked. "I think we have to." The email contained a link to a local news website. There, in all its glory, was a video of Vanessa at a charity gala, clearly intoxicated, ranting about ungrateful children and family betrayal. The caption read, "Local philanthropist's public meltdown raises questions about recent charitable donations." "Oh my God," I breathed. "Keep reading," Aaron said. According to Aunt Patricia's email, Vanessa had tried to maintain her image by throwing herself into charity work after our departure. She'd even attempted to take credit for organizing the children's hospital donation. But at the gala, after one too many glasses of champagne, she'd lost it. "Play the video," I said. The footage was shaky but clear enough. There was Vanessa, designer dress slightly askew, gesturing wildly with a champagne glass. "They think they can embarrass me?" She slurred into a microphone she'd apparently grabbed from the event's MC. "I gave them everything. I planned the perfect wedding. And this is how they repay me? By running off to some islands and making me look foolish?" The crowd's uncomfortable murmurs were audible in the background. "And that donation," she continued, "that was supposed to be their honeymoon. I canceled it because they weren't ready for marriage. I did it for them, for family." The video ended with security gently escorting her from the stage. "There's more," Aaron said, scrolling through messages. "The hospital is investigating the donation situation. Mom's Bridge Club has suspended her membership, and..." He paused. "The family's annual Christmas party has been moved to Aunt Patricia's house." I sat up in the hammock. "That's been at your mom's house for 20 years. "Exactly." He looked at me. "You know what this means?" She's lost control of the narrative. Just then, both our phones buzzed simultaneously. A text from Vanessa. "Coming to the airport to meet your return flight. We need to fix this situation immediately." I showed Aaron my screen. How did she even know our flight details? Probably called every airline until she found the booking. He ran a hand through his hair. "What do you want to do?" I thought about it for a moment, then called Deborah. "Already on it," she said before I could even explain. "I can have a car waiting at the private terminal. You won't have to go through the main arrival area." "You're a lifesaver." "Oh, and Juliana, you might want to check your email. The video of Vanessa's meltdown has caught the attention of a women's magazine. They want to interview you about standing up to toxic family dynamics." After hanging up, I found Aaron staring at his phone again. "More family messages?" "No," he said slowly. "It's an email from Dad." My breath caught. Aaron's father had left when he was young, driven away by Vanessa's controlling behavior. He rarely made contact. "He saw the video," Aaron continued. "Says he's proud of us for standing up to her, and..." He swallowed hard. "He wants to meet for coffee when we get back." I squeezed his hand. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I just never thought..." He shook his head. "Mom's actions didn't just affect us, did they? They've been hurting people for years." Our phones buzzed again. Another message from Vanessa. "This is not a request. Family handles problems together." I looked at Aaron, then at the pristine beach around us, then back at the phone. Finally, I typed a response. "You're right, Vanessa. Family does handle problems together. That's why the entire family watched that video of you at the gala. That's why they're all making their own decisions now. You wanted to talk about family? Let's talk about how you've treated yours for the past 20 years. Aaron read over my shoulder as I typed. "Send it," he said firmly. I hit send, then turned off my phone. We had one more day in paradise, and I intended to enjoy it. Think she'll be waiting at the main terminal anyway? Aaron asked. Probably. But for the first time in her life, she'll be waiting for something she can't control. We settled back into the hammock, listening to the waves. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but we'd face them together, on our terms, not Vanessa's. The private terminal was quiet when our flight landed. True to her word, Deborah had arranged everything perfectly. A discreet exit, tinted window car waiting, and a text confirming Vanessa was indeed stalking the main terminal. Ready to face the real world? Aaron asked as we drove home. Before I could answer, both our phones lit up with notifications. The magazine article about standing up to toxic family relationships had gone live while we were in the air. They used the gala video, Aaron noted, scrolling through the article. They used more than that, I said, reading further. Look, other families are sharing similar stories in the comments. We're not the only ones who've dealt with this. We arrived home to find Aunt Patricia waiting in our driveway. Don't worry, she said, hugging us both. I've been keeping an eye on your place, and you should know, things have changed while you were gone. Inside, she filled us in. After the gala incident, family members had started sharing their own stories of Vanessa's manipulation. Uncle Robert's daughter revealed how Vanessa had sabotaged her college choices. Aaron's cousin admitted she'd eloped because of Vanessa's interference with wedding plans. The dam broke, Aunt Patricia explained. Once one person spoke up, everyone started talking. My phone rang, Vanessa's number. Put it on speaker, Aaron said. Juliana. Vanessa's voice was tightly controlled. I've been trying to reach you. I know. This situation has gotten out of hand. That article, those comments, people don't understand. I need you to make a statement. Explain that it was all a misunderstanding. No. A sharp intake of breath. No? The only misunderstanding was you thinking you could control everyone forever. I am your mother-in-law, and I am your daughter-in-law, not your puppet. The difference is, I never tried to control you. Aaron, Vanessa tried. Surely you understand. I understand perfectly, Mom. Aaron interrupted. I understand why Dad left, why Sarah eloped, why none of your children-in-law want to spend time with you, and I understand that it stops now. Silence filled the line. We're willing to have a relationship with you, I said softly, but it has to be a healthy one. No more manipulation, no more control, no more family ultimatums. And if I refuse? Then you'll lose us, Aaron said simply. Your choice. The line went dead. Aunt Patricia squeezed my hand. That was brave, both of you. A knock at the door made us all jump. It was Deborah, looking excited. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She pulled up a social media post on her phone. Vanessa just published this. The post was surprisingly short. To my family, I am seeking professional help to address my controlling behavior. I realize now that my actions have caused pain to those I love most. I don't expect immediate forgiveness, but I am committed to change. Is it genuine? Aaron wondered. Look at the comments, Deborah said. The first comment was from Aaron's father. This is a good first step, Vanessa. Perhaps we can all begin to heal. More family members had chimed in, offering cautious support while maintaining firm boundaries. The community of people from the magazine article were also commenting, sharing resources for family therapy and recovery. It's not a perfect ending, I said, but it's a start. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. I would like to meet, just to talk. No demands, no conditions, when you're ready. I showed it to Aaron. He nodded slowly. Tell her we'll think about it, he said, on our terms. I typed a response. We appreciate your willingness to change. Give us time to process everything. Maybe we can get coffee next week, in a public place with clear boundaries. Her reply came quickly. I understand. Thank you for the chance. Later that evening, as Aaron and I unpacked our suitcases, I found my mother's journal at the bottom of my carry-on. Opening it to a random page, I read her words. Love doesn't demand control. It offers freedom to grow, to change, to become. What are you thinking? Aaron asked, noticing my smile. That sometimes the happy ending isn't about winning or losing. It's about breaking free and giving others the chance to do the same. He pulled me close. Think Mom will actually change? I don't know. But that's not our responsibility. We've shown her, and everyone else, that it's possible to stand up for yourself while still leaving the door open for healing. Speaking of doors, Aaron grinned. Should we tell her we're house hunting in another neighborhood? Let's save that conversation for another day. Right now, I just want to enjoy our freedom. Outside, the sun was setting on our first day back, not as newlyweds under Vanessa's thumb, but as partners who had faced manipulation and emerged stronger. Whatever came next, we would face it together on our own terms. And that was the sweetest victory of all.
The moment my brother Gabriel dumped an entire cooler of ice water over my head during our father-daughter dance, I knew my wedding day was ruined. My name is Emery, and this is the story of how my little brother's harmless prank changed both our lives forever. It's just a joke, sis. Lighten up. Gabriel's words rang through the reception hall as mascara streamed down my face, my perfectly styled hair now a dripping mess. My white dress clung to my body, transparent in places it shouldn't be, while my father stood there shocked, his rented tux soaked through. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Marcus, my new husband, rushed to my side with napkins, his face red with anger. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Gabriel just laughed, high-fiving his equally immature friends. "Come on, it's a wedding tradition. The bride needs something cold, right?" My mother Esther hurried over, absolutely mortified. "Gabriel Ryan, what have you done? This is your sister's wedding." I stood there shivering, watching my carefully planned reception dissolve into chaos. The string quartet stopped playing. Guests whispered and pointed. My photographer kept snapping photos, probably thinking she'd struck disaster documentary gold. "I need to change," I managed to say through chattering teeth. My maid of honor rushed me to the bridal suite, but I knew the damage was done. The moment was gone. The father-daughter dance I'd dreamed of since I was little, the one Dad had been practicing for weeks despite his bad knee, was ruined. When I emerged in my backup dress, thank God I'd listened to my wedding planner about having one, Gabriel was still there, now working on his fourth beer. "Hey, you look great," he called out, raising his glass. "See? No harm done." I walked straight up to him, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "You've pulled a lot of stunts over the years, Gabriel, but this is different." He rolled his eyes. "Oh, please, you're being dramatic. It was funny. Even Dad laughed." Dad didn't laugh. He was embarrassed. Everyone was embarrassed. But you wouldn't notice because you never notice how your actions affect others. "Whatever," he scoffed, turning back to the bar. "You've always been too serious. Life's a joke, sis. Learn to laugh." I grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at me. "You think this is funny? You think ruining one of the most important moments of my life is a joke?" "Let go." He yanked his arm away, spilling his beer. "Jesus, when did you become such a buzzkill?" Marley, his girlfriend, approached cautiously. "Gabe, maybe we should go. I think you've had enough." "I'm fine," he snapped at her. "Stop mothering me. You're as bad as Emery." I watched Marley's face fall, saw the familiar pain in her eyes. How many times had she tried to rein in his destructive behavior? How many times had we all tried? Marcus appeared beside me, his hand steady on my lower back. "I think it's time for you to leave, Gabriel. You've done enough damage for one day." "Fine." Gabriel stumbled slightly as he stood. "I don't need this shit." "Come on, Marley." As they left, I heard them arguing in the parking lot, their voices carrying through the open doors. Another relationship Gabriel seemed determined to destroy. "I'm so sorry, honey." My mother hugged me, her voice breaking. "I don't know what's gotten into him lately." But I knew. This wasn't new. This was Gabriel, doing what he'd always done, making everything about him. Consequences be damned. Only this time he'd gone too far. Later that night, as Marcus and I slow danced to make up for the ruined father-daughter dance, I made a decision. Gabriel needed to learn that actions have consequences. Real ones. Not the kind that could be laughed off or dismissed with a wave of his hand. "You're thinking about Gabriel," Marcus said softly, reading my expression. "He needs to understand what he did today. Really understand." Marcus pulled back slightly, studying my face. "What are you planning?" "Nothing yet," I replied. but my mind was already working. But when the opportunity comes, I'll be ready. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making someone face themselves in the mirror. Just don't let it consume you, Marcus warned, pulling me close again. He's still your brother. Yes, I whispered, watching the remaining guests enjoy themselves, trying to salvage what was left of our reception. He is my brother, and that's exactly why this matters so much. Little did I know then that my chance for revenge would come sooner than expected, and it would change everything, not just for Gabriel, but for all of us. 3 weeks after the wedding disaster, at exactly 2:17 a.m., our doorbell started ringing non-stop. Marcus and I were just settling into our new home, still surrounded by unpacked boxes and wedding gifts. "Who the hell?" Marcus mumbled, reaching for his phone. The doorbell kept buzzing, now accompanied by heavy pounding. I checked our security camera feed and felt my stomach drop. It's Gabriel, and oh God, he's drunk. Through the camera, I watched my brother sway on our front porch, repeatedly hitting the doorbell with one hand while clutching a half-empty bottle in the other. "Don't answer it," Marcus said, but I was already heading downstairs. When I opened the door, Gabriel practically fell inside. "Hey, sis," he slurred, stumbling past me. "Nice house. Wedding present from Mum and Dad, right? Must be nice being the favourite. Gabriel, it's the middle of the night. What are you doing here?" He wandered into our living room, leaving muddy footprints on our new carpet. "Marley kicked me out. Can you believe that? Said I'm destructive and need help. Whatever that means. You drove here drunk." I noticed his keys dangling from his finger. "Nah, took a cab." "Man, not stupid." He collapsed onto our couch, spilling some of his drink. "Just grab my car from the bar first, it's out front." Marcus appeared, now fully dressed. "I'll move his car into the driveway before it gets towed." Gabriel tossed the keys, missing Marcus completely. They clattered against a wedding photo on the wall, the one salvageable picture from after his prank. "Sorry about your fancy party, by the way," Gabriel mumbled, noticing the photo. "But hey, at least people will remember it, right?" I stood there, watching my brother's glazed eyes struggle to focus, and suddenly saw my opportunity. "You can stay tonight," I said, ignoring Marcus's surprised look. "Really?" Gabriel perked up. "Thought you were mad at me." "Oh, I am. But you're still my brother, and you're clearly in no state to go anywhere." Marcus pulled me aside. "Are you sure about this? He's not exactly stable right now." I squeezed his hand. "Trust me. He needs to see some things clearly, and maybe this is the perfect chance." When we returned to the living room, Gabriel was trying to drink from his now empty bottle. "Where's Marley?" he asked, nobody in particular. "She usually takes care of me when I'm like this." "Maybe that's the problem," I said, taking the bottle away. "Maybe it's time you took care of yourself." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're sleeping on the couch tonight. And tomorrow we're going to have a real conversation about everything, including the wedding." Gabriel groaned. "Not this again. It was weeks ago. Let it go." "Oh, I'll let it go," I said, tossing him a blanket, "right after you understand exactly what you did. Sleep well, brother dear." As I turned to leave, he called out, "You know what your problem is, Emery? You think everything has to be perfect. Life isn't perfect. It's all one big joke." I paused at the stairs. "No, Gabriel, life isn't a joke. But tomorrow I'm going to show you what one really looks like." Marcus followed me upstairs. "What are you planning?" "Remember how Gabriel always said I was too serious? How I needed to learn to take a joke?" I started gathering supplies from our bathroom. "Well, I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. Starting tomorrow, everything's going to be one big joke. Emery, don't worry," I said, filling a bucket with ice water. "I'm not going to hurt him. I'm just going to help him see himself clearly. Very, very clearly." From downstairs came the sound of Gabriel's loud snoring, punctuated by occasional mumbles about Marley. "He's hit rock bottom," Marcus observed. "Maybe this isn't the best time to—" "It's exactly the right time," I interrupted. "Rock bottom means he has nowhere else to go but up, and I'm going to make sure he does exactly that, whether he wants to or not." I set the bucket by our bed ready for tomorrow's wake-up call. "He wants jokes," Fine. But this time, I'm going to make sure he understands the punchline. As I lay in bed listening to my brother's drunken snores echo through our new home, I felt a strange mix of anger and hope. Gabriel had always been the family's chaos factor, the one who turned everything into a game. Now it was my turn to play, and I intended to win. "Just promise me one thing," Marcus said as he turned out the light. "Promise this won't turn into something you'll regret." "I promise," I whispered, already planning tomorrow's lessons in karma. "This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about finally making my little brother grow up." At exactly 6 a.m., I dumped the bucket of ice water over Gabriel's head. His screams probably woke the entire neighborhood. "What the hell?" He shot up from the couch, dripping and shivering. "Are you insane?" "Oh, come on," I said, mimicking his wedding day tone perfectly. "It's just a joke. Learn to laugh, brother." Gabriel wiped his face, hungover and miserable. "Very funny. Where's the bathroom? I think I'm going to be sick." "Down the hall. But hurry up. We're having breakfast in 15 minutes. "We're what? No, I need to go home and..." "And what? Face Marley? Sleep it off? Run away from another mess you've made?" I started pulling open curtains, letting in the harsh morning light. "Not this time. You wanted to crash here, so now you're going to experience the full hospitality of Casa Emery." Marcus came downstairs, already dressed for work. "Morning, sunshine," he called to Gabriel, who was stumbling toward the bathroom. "Sleep well?" The sounds of retching answered his question. "You don't have to go to work today," I told Marcus quietly. "I can handle this." "Are you kidding? And miss the show?" He kissed my cheek. "Just go easy on him, okay? He looks rough." 20 minutes later, Gabriel sat at our kitchen table, still damp, nursing a cup of black coffee while I deliberately made the loudest breakfast possible. "Who wants eggs?" I practically shouted, banging pots and pans. "I'm thinking scrambled, with extra onions and garlic." Gabriel groaned, holding his head. "Please stop." "Stop? But I'm just getting started. Hey, remember that time you played your drum set at 3 a.m. because you thought Mum and Dad needed more music in their lives?" His phone buzzed, Marley's face appearing on the screen. Gabriel reached for it, but I was faster. "Hello, Marley, you're on speaker," I announced cheerfully. "Gabe?" Marley's voice was tired, worried. "Where are you?" "I've been calling all night." "He's safe," I answered. "Having breakfast at my place? Want to join us?" "Don't," Gabriel warned, but Marley was already responding. "Actually, yes. I think we all need to talk. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Gabriel slumped in his chair. "Why are you doing this to me?" "Doing what? Being helpful? Involving myself in your personal life? Making everything into one big joke?" I set a plate of eggs in front of him, the smell making him pale. "Isn't that what family does? This is about the wedding, isn't it? Oh, now he gets it. Give the man a prize." I clapped loudly, making him wince. "But no, Gabriel, this isn't just about the wedding. This is about every time you've turned someone else's moment into your comedy show. Every time you've hurt people and laughed it off." The doorbell rang, Marley early and determined. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "Perfect timing," I ushered her in. "We were just discussing Gabriel's greatest hits. Want to add any to the list?" "Emery, please," Gabriel started, but Marley cut him off. "How about last month's dinner with my parents?" she said, sitting down, "when you thought it would be hilarious to tell them about our sex life." "Or my graduation," I added, "when you set off the fire alarm because the ceremony was too boring." "The Christmas you sold Dad's vintage watch for concert tickets? Mom's 50th birthday party?" Gabriel stood up suddenly, swaying slightly. "I get it, okay? I'm a screw-up. Is that what you want to hear?" "No," I said firmly. "What I want is for you to actually get it. To understand that your actions hurt people. Real people. People who love you." "Love me?" He laughed bitterly. "Right. That's why you're torturing me with this intervention." "Gabe," Marley's voice softened, "we're here because we care. Because we can't keep watching you destroy yourself and everyone around you." "I don't need this." He grabbed his keys from the counter. "I'm out." I blocked his path. "Your car's staying here. You're still drunk from last night." "Fine, I'll walk." To where, Gabriel? Your apartment that you got kicked out of? Your job that you're probably losing? Your girlfriend who's at her breaking point? He stopped, his back to us, shoulders tense. For a moment I thought he might cry. Instead he turned around with that familiar, mocking smile. At least I know how to have fun. When's the last time either of you just let loose? Stopped being so damn perfect all the time? This morning, I replied calmly. With the ice water. Pretty fun, right? His smile faltered. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed again, this time with a call from his boss. Want to put that on speaker too? I asked. Or are you ready to have a real conversation about where your life is heading? Gabriel stared at his ringing phone, the weight of his choices finally seeming to sink in. And for the first time since I could remember, he didn't have a joke to hide behind. Gabriel let his phone ring out, then slumped back into his chair. I got fired, didn't I? Probably, I said, sitting across from him. Just like you probably lost your apartment, and you're probably about to lose Marley too. I'm still here, Marley said quietly. For now. The morning light streamed through our kitchen windows, highlighting the dark circles under Gabriel's eyes, the stubble on his chin, the stains on his rumpled shirt. He looked older suddenly, worn down. Remember Dad's funeral? He asked unexpectedly. Gabriel, don't, I warned, but he continued. Remember what Mom said to me, right after the service? I did remember. It was 5 years ago, but the memory was crystal clear. She was grieving. We all were. She said I was just like him, that I'd end up just like him. Gabriel's laugh was hollow. Guess she was right, Marley looked confused. Like your father. I thought he was a successful businessman. On paper, sure. Gabriel's voice was bitter. Great provider, perfect family man, except for his little secret. Want to tell her, Emery? Or should I? I closed my eyes, feeling the old pain resurface. Dad had a gambling problem. He hid it well, but it nearly bankrupted us several times. Mum spent years covering for him, paying off debts. And he turned everything into a joke, Gabriel added. Sound familiar? Every crisis, every close call, it was all just one big game to him. Until it wasn't. The heart attack, I said softly. The heart attack, Gabriel echoed. Right after Mom found out about the second mortgage he'd taken out without telling her. But hey, at least he died laughing, right? Marley reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it's easier to be the family clown than the family failure, I answered for him. Isn't that right, Gabriel? He stood up abruptly, pacing our kitchen. You don't get it. You were always the strong one, the responsible one. I was just... there. Making people laugh because at least then they weren't disappointed in me. And the wedding? I pressed. What was that about? I don't know, he exploded. Maybe because everyone was talking about how perfect you are, how amazing your life is. Maybe because Dad would have loved it. One last big joke to lighten the mood. Or maybe, I said, standing to face him, you were scared. Scared that people might actually expect something real from you. Something meaningful. Like what? Like a genuine relationship, Marley interjected. Like a real career instead of jumping from job to job. Like being the person I know you can be when you're not hiding behind your pranks. Gabriel stopped pacing, staring out our kitchen window at the morning traffic. What if I don't know how to be that person? Then you learn, I said firmly, starting now. How? By having you dump ice water on me and force me to face my demons over breakfast? No. By staying here for a while. Both Gabriel and Marley turned to stare at me. What? Gabriel asked. You need a place to stay. We have a spare room, but there are conditions. Of course there are, he muttered. You get a job, a real one. You start therapy, and you face everything you've been running from. And if I don't? Then you're on your own. Completely. No more family bailouts. No more second chances. No more Marley waiting in the wings hoping you'll change. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Outside, a neighbour's kid rode past on his bike, laughing. Gabriel watched him, his expression unreadable. The spare room still has boxes in it, he said finally. We can move them. And Marcus is okay with this? He will be. Gabriel turned to Marley. What about us? She stood up, gathering her purse. That depends on you. I love you, Gabe, but I can't keep loving someone who doesn't love himself enough to change. As she headed for the door, she paused. Call me when you're ready. Really ready. After she left, Gabriel and I stood in silence, the weight of the morning's revelations hanging between us. I'm not him, Gabriel said suddenly. Dad, I don't want to be him. Then don't be, I replied. Be better. He picked up his coffee cup, now cold, and stared into it like it held answers. The spare room, does it at least have a bed? It will by tonight. And the ice water wake-up calls? Only when you deserve them. For the first time that morning, his smile was genuine, small but real. I really messed up your wedding, didn't I? Yes, you did, but maybe we can both get something better out of this mess. Like what? Like my brother back. The real one, not the joke version. 2 weeks into Gabriel's stay, I found him sitting on our front porch at dawn, talking to our neighbour Joseph. I paused at the door, coffee in hand, listening. So, you just gave it all up? Gabriel asked. The drinking, the parties? Joseph nodded, his weathered face serious. Had to. Lost my family, my career as a counsellor. Hit rock bottom hard. But sometimes that's what it takes to realise you're digging your own grave. How'd you climb out? One day at a time. Started counselling troubled kids again, but this time with real understanding. Nothing teaches empathy like falling apart yourself. I stepped outside, making my presence known. Morning, Joseph. Coffee? No thanks, heading to the centre soon. Got a full day of sessions. He stood, patting Gabriel's shoulder. Think about what I said about the meetings. They help. After Joseph left, Gabriel turned to me. Did you plan this? Plan what? Having an inspirational recovering alcoholic next door, someone who just happens to be a counsellor. I sat beside him smiling. Contrary to what you might think, I don't actually control the universe. Joseph moved in last year, but he's right about the meetings. I'm not an alcoholic, Gabriel protested. No, you're just someone who ruins important events while drunk, loses jobs because of hangovers, and got kicked out of his apartment for throwing beer-soaked parties. Point taken, he sighed, watching the sunrise. I had that job interview yesterday. And I got it. Assistant manager at the sports store. Not exactly a career, but it's a start, I finished. Did you tell Marley? Left her a voicemail, she hasn't called back. Give her time. She's seen a lot of false starts. Gabriel pulled out his phone, showing me a text. Mum wants to visit. My stomach tightened. Are you ready for that? No. But Joseph said something interesting. He said, avoiding hard conversations is like leaving an infected wound untreated. It only gets worse. Smart man. Yeah. Gabriel stood up, stretching. I'm going to one of those meetings today, the ones Joseph mentioned. Want to come with me? I nearly dropped my coffee. You're serious? Don't make a big deal out of it. I need to try something different. Being the family clown isn't working anymore. Later that evening, after the meeting, we sat in my kitchen. Gabriel was unusually quiet, pushing his food around his plate. You okay? I asked. They all had stories. The people at the meeting, about hitting bottom, losing everything. And the whole time I kept thinking, what? That could have been Dad, if he'd gotten help, faced his demons instead of joking them away. Maybe he'd still be here. Marcus, who'd been silently supportive through all of this, spoke up. You can't change the past, Gabriel, but you're changing your future. That matters. I saw Marley today, Gabriel said suddenly. After the meeting, she was at the coffee shop across the street. And she said she's proud of me for trying, but she needs to see real change before... He trailed off, then laughed softly. You know what's funny? For once, I don't feel like making a joke about it. That's progress, I said. Is it? Because it hurts more this way. Everything hurts more when you're not laughing it off. That's how you know it's real, Marcus added. Real change isn't comfortable. Gabriel's phone buzzed, a text from Mom confirming her visit for the weekend. His hand shook slightly as he read it. She doesn't know I'm staying here, he realised, or about the meetings. Or Marley. Maybe it's time she did, I suggested. Maybe it's time we all stopped pretending. Like how we pretended with Dad. Exactly like that. Gabriel stood up, walking to our family photo wall. He stopped at the wedding picture, the one showing the aftermath of his prank. I really thought I was being funny, he said quietly. I actually believed I was adding something positive to your day. How messed up is that? Pretty messed up, I agreed, joining him. But you know what's interesting? If you hadn't done that, hadn't pushed me so far, we might not be here now. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes. Is that your way of saying I should thank you for the ice water wake-up call? No, that was just fun. For the first time in weeks, we both laughed. Not the forced laughter of deflection or the bitter laughter of pain, but genuine, healing laughter. I'm scared about Mum's visit, Gabriel admitted. I know, but this time, you're not facing it alone. He nodded, then straightened his shoulders. I should call Marley. Tell her about the meeting. No jokes, no excuses. Just truth. Good idea. As he headed upstairs to make the call, I realized my plan for revenge had transformed into something else entirely. Something more like redemption. Mom arrived on Saturday morning with her signature apple pie and an armful of tension. The moment she saw Gabriel opening our front door, she froze. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice tight. I live here for now? Gabriel took the pie from her. Need help with your bags? She stepped inside, looking around as if searching for damage. Emery didn't tell me you were staying here. That's because I asked her not to, he said. We need to talk, Mom. I emerged from the kitchen, wiping my hands on a towel. Hi, Mom. Coffee's ready. The three of us sat at the dining room table, the untouched pie between us like a barrier. Marcus had conveniently found errands to run, giving us privacy. How long has this been going on? Mom asked, stirring her coffee endlessly. About 3 weeks, I answered. Since the night Marley? Since I hit bottom, Gabriel interrupted. That's what they call it in the meetings. Mom's spoon clattered against her cup. Meetings? What meetings? AA. Well, technically NA, Narcotics Anonymous. They're more about all kinds of addictions, including gambling. The word hung in the air like smoke. Mom's hands began to shake. Don't, she warned. Don't you dare bring that up. Why not? Gabriel's voice was steady. We never talked about it when Dad was alive. We never talked about it after he died. We just kept pretending everything was fine. Because it was fine, Mom stood up abruptly. Your father provided for us. He loved us. He was sick, Mom, I said gently, and now Gabriel's getting help so he doesn't follow the same path. This is ridiculous. Gabriel doesn't have a gambling problem. No, Gabriel agreed. I have a different problem. I turn everything into a joke because I'm terrified of being serious, of facing reality. Just like Dad did. Mom's face crumpled. You're nothing like him. I'm exactly like him, or I was becoming him. The deflection, the running away, the ruining important moments because I couldn't handle genuine emotion. Remember Emery's wedding? That was just a prank. It wasn't just a prank. Gabriel's voice rose. It was me, sabotaging something beautiful because I couldn't stand feeling inadequate. Because every time I see Emery succeeding, being happy, I remember what you said at Dad's funeral. Mom sank back into her chair. What I said? That I was just like him, that I'd end up just like him. I was grieving, Mom whispered. I was angry and hurt and right, Gabriel finished. But I don't want to be right anymore. I'm getting help. I'm facing things, and I need you to face them too. Tears started rolling down Mom's cheeks. Your father tried so hard to change. He just couldn't. Because he tried alone, I said. Because we all kept his secrets, laughed at his jokes, pretended everything was okay. And look at us now, Gabriel added. Still pretending, still avoiding, still hurting. Mom reached across the table, taking Gabriel's hand. I'm sorry about what I said at the funeral, about not seeing what was happening to you. I'm sorry too, he squeezed her hand, for becoming everyone's worst fear instead of proving them wrong. Tell her about your job, I prompted. As Gabriel shared his progress, the job, the meetings, the conversations with Joseph, Mum's expression shifted from pain to something like hope. "And Marley?" she asked. "We're talking. Really talking. Not just me making jokes and her pretending to laugh. She came to dinner last night. Here. Yeah. She's been helping me learn how to be real, even when it hurts." Mum turned to me. "This was your plan all along, wasn't it? Taking him in, forcing him to face everything." "Actually, my plan was revenge," I admitted. "But sometimes life has better ideas." "I'm proud of you," Mom said to Gabriel. "Your father, he would be proud too. Not of who you are becoming, but of who you're choosing to be now." Gabriel stood up, walking to the window. "Joseph says change is like the sunrise. It happens gradually, then all at once, and you have to keep choosing it every day." "Smart man, this Joseph," Mom observed. "He is," I agreed. "He's showing Gabriel there's a different way to be strong, a different way to be a man than what we grew up seeing." Mom finally cut into her pie, serving us each a piece. "Well then, I suppose we have a lot of catching up to do. Real catching up, no more pretending." As we ate, the conversation flowed more freely than it had in years. There were tears, yes, but also genuine laughter, the kind that heals instead of hides. Through it all, I watched my brother's face, seeing glimpses of the person he was becoming. The person who, maybe, he'd been all along, beneath all those layers of jokes and deflection. 2 months after Mom's visit, I stood in the back of a community centre meeting room, watching Gabriel receive his 60-day sobriety chip. Marley sat beside me, clutching my hand. "I never thought I'd see this," she whispered. "He's actually doing it." Gabriel stepped up to the podium, the small bronze chip catching the fluorescent light. "Hi, I'm Gabriel, and I'm an addict." "Hi, Gabriel," the room responded. "Not to drugs or alcohol, specifically," he continued, "though those were definitely symptoms. I was addicted to running away, to turning everything into a joke because reality was too scary to face." Joseph, sitting in the front row, nodded encouragingly. 2 months ago, I ruined my sister's wedding. Dumped ice water on her during the father-daughter dance because I couldn't handle seeing someone else's perfect moment. I thought I was being funny. I wasn't. I was being a coward." He paused, taking a deep breath. "My dad died 5 years ago. He was also a coward, hiding behind jokes and schemes until it killed him. I thought following in his footsteps was my destiny. But my sister, she showed me another way. Actually, she forced me to see another way." Laughter rippled through the room. "She dumped ice water on me too. Karmic justice, right? But then she did something harder. She made me stay, made me look in the mirror, made me face every person I'd hurt with my jokes." Marley's grip on my hand tightened. "Today, I have a steady job. I'm rebuilding relationships I nearly destroyed. I'm learning to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of drowning them in alcohol or deflecting them with humor. And yeah, sometimes I still want to run. Sometimes I still want to turn everything into a joke. But now I know there's a difference between laughing with people and laughing at their expense." He held up his chip. "This isn't just for sobriety. It's for 60 days of choosing to be real. 60 days of facing myself in the mirror. 60 days of trying to become someone my father never had the chance to be." After the meeting, we gathered in the parking lot. Joseph hugged Gabriel, whispering something in his ear that made him smile. "I have something for you," Gabriel said to me after Joseph left. He pulled out an envelope. "Open it." Inside was a check for the exact amount my wedding had cost. "Gabriel, no," I started, but he held up his hand. "I've been saving from my new job. Every penny. You and Marcus deserve a do-over. A real wedding without any pranks or drama." "We're already married," I reminded him. "Then renew your vows. Have the father-daughter dance you deserved. Let me make it right." Marley stepped forward. "Actually, I have an idea. Why not use that money for a different kind of celebration?" "What do you mean?" Gabriel asked. She took his hand. "I've been thinking. Maybe it's time we had our own wedding. A small one, with just family. Where you can show everyone who you've become." Gabriel's eyes widened. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking if you're ready. Really ready. No jokes, no running away, no turning it into something it's not. Gabriel looked at me, then back at Marley. Can I think about it? Not because I don't want to, but because I want to be sure I'm doing it for the right reasons. Marley smiled. That's exactly the answer I was hoping for. Later that night, Gabriel and I sat on my porch much like that morning weeks ago when everything started to change. I'm not taking the check, I said. Emery, no, listen. Keep saving it. Build a future with Marley. Or use it for education. Joseph mentioned the counselling programme at the community college. Gabriel was quiet for a moment. You think I could do that? Help people like Joseph does? I think you understand rock bottom in a way most people don't. And you're living proof that people can change. Because you forced me to. No, I corrected him. Because you chose to. Every day for 60 days you chose to be better. That's not revenge or karma. That's growth. He pulled out his sobriety chip, turning it over in his hands. You know what's weird? For the first time in my life, I'm actually proud of myself. Not for being the life of the party or the family clown, but for being real. Dad would be proud too. Yeah, he smiled softly. Maybe he's somewhere, watching, learning along with me. A car pulled into Joseph's driveway next door. He waved as he got out, carrying a stack of counselling books. I think I'm going to take those classes, Gabriel decided. Not for Marley or for you or even for Dad. For me. Good, I stood up. Because that's the only way change sticks, and when you do it for yourself. Hey, Emery, he called as I headed inside. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I deserved it. That's what family does, I replied. The real kind, not the pretend kind. He nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, addressed in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a letter that made me sit down hard on our front steps. Dear Emery, it began. You don't know me, but I'm one of your brother's students from his counselling internship. I wanted to thank you. Marcus found me there, still reading. Everything okay? I handed him the letter. Read it. He told us about your wedding, the letter continued, about how you turned his prank into a wake-up call, about how your revenge became his salvation. Yesterday he helped me find the courage to face my own family after years of running away. He said sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the best changes. Where's Gabriel now? Marcus asked. At the community centre with Joseph. They're running a workshop together. The sound of laughter drew our attention to the street. Gabriel and Joseph were walking up the sidewalk, deep in conversation. No, see, that's where you're wrong, Gabriel was saying. Sometimes humour can be therapeutic, if used right. It's about laughing with people, not at them. Joseph spotted us on the steps. Emery! Perfect timing. Your brother's just revolutionising my entire counselling approach. Someone left this for you. I held up the letter. Gabriel read it, his expression softening. Jake, he's been struggling with his parents since coming out. We talked yesterday about using honesty instead of anger. Looks like it worked, I said. Yeah, Gabriel folded the letter carefully. You know what's funny? Not haha funny, but life funny. I always thought being serious meant being miserable. Turns out being real just means being whole. Speaking of being real, Joseph interjected, shouldn't you be somewhere right now? Gabriel checked his watch and jumped. The ring! I have to pick up the ring! What ring? I asked, but he was already running to his car. The engagement ring, Joseph explained. He's asking Marley tonight, properly this time, with a real plan and everything. Does she know? No, but she's been helping him plan this workshop series on family reconciliation. He's going to propose after they present it together. I shook my head, smiling. From wedding crasher to wedding planner. Who would have thought? Actually, Joseph's eyes twinkled, he's planning something for you too. A surprise vow renewal ceremony. Small, intimate, just family. He's been working with your mom on it for weeks. Of course he has, I laughed, but this time I trust him with it. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Marley, a photo of her hand wearing a simple engagement ring, followed by, he did it right this time. No jokes, just love. I showed Marcus the message. "Remember when I wanted revenge?" "You got it," he replied. "Just not the way you expected." "The best revenge is living well," Joseph quoted from our porch swing where he'd stayed to chat. Or in Gabriel's case, helping others live well. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Mom. "Your brother just called. He's crying happy tears. Real ones. Thank you for saving him." "I didn't save him," I typed back. "He saved himself. I just showed him it was possible." The next message was from Gabriel. "Meeting tomorrow at 7, bringing a new person. Dad would be proud of us both." I looked up at our house, remembering that drunk, broken man who'd shown up on our doorstep months ago. The brother who'd turned my wedding into a disaster. The son who'd been following our father's self-destructive path. "You know what the real revenge was?" I said to Marcus and Joseph, "breaking the cycle, turning pain into purpose." "That's not revenge," Joseph smiled. "That's redemption." My phone lit up one last time. A message from an unknown number. "Hi, this is Jake. Your brother said I should reach out. Said sometimes family needs to be chosen, not just born into. Would you and Marcus maybe want to come to dinner? My parents are finally ready to talk." As I typed my reply, I realized that my plan for revenge had created something far more powerful than I'd intended. It had created a chain of healing that was reaching far beyond our family. "Ready to head in?" Marcus asked. "Almost," I said, taking one more moment to sit with the peace of this evening. No ice water needed, no jokes necessary, no pain to hide from, just truth, just growth, just love. And somewhere, I knew Dad was watching, finally learning how to face life without hiding behind laughter, finally understanding that the best jokes aren't the ones that hurt, but the ones that heal. That's the thing about real revenge. Sometimes it looks exactly like forgiveness.